Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Irish Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Happy Monday. Haven't been able to say this in the last couple of weeks, but it is buy, sell, hold day. We took a little bit of a break. We were wrapping up some end of spring, state of the program things. Obviously, the recruiting trail's been popping off the last couple of weeks, but we are back with buy, sell, hold today. Now, this does happen to be your first buy, sell, hold. This is something we do for the premium message board subscribers at boards@irishbreakdown.com. A thread goes up over the weekend, and basically you guys submit, scenarios, questions you might have about the college football season. And after some discussion, Brian and I will discuss whether we buy it, we sell it, or we hold it. This isn't like a normal mailbag where we just answer questions in the chat. But if you are a premium message board subscriber, you didn't get yours in time, you can always throw in a super chat with your buy, sell, hold. And if you're not a premium message board subscriber, highly recommend, not just for the buy, sell, hold, but for all the things that we have going on over at Irish Breakdown. Best way to stay in tune is be a premium message board subscriber at boards@irishbreakdown.com. But Brian, this is one of the favorite segments that you and I do here at Irish Breakdown, and we get to do at Irish Breakdown. And I'm excited that it's back this week, man.
I've missed it. I have definitely missed it, to be honest with you. I mean, we had to do. We enjoyed those shows, and kind of the state of the program discussion is always fun. But I'll be honest with you, Trev, I was missing the buy, sell, hold. I was, but we're back at it and ready to get rocking and rolling. And I mean, we've got some submissions ready. I'm ready to get going. I feel like we should probably dive right in now because we got a lot of them. We have 49 different cards. So let's get this thing rocking and rolling. And you guys must have missed it too, because we had a lot of great submissions today. So I'm ready to get going.
From our guy Salty, who always gets us started, he gets the thread up on the message board, so he kind of gets first dibs here. So, buy, sell, hold from Salty. The presence of a defensive coordinator and staff all hired within the last year and a half provides a coaching continuity likely to last several years that will drive the stacking of elite recruiting classes necessary to establish the Notre Dame defense as one of the top 5 and not 5th in all of college football.
I'm going to have to – I hate my answer to this. Like, I don't even want this to be the first question because I'm going to have to hold that. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I can possibly answer that a question. I mean, if it was going to be anything, it would have to be sell, because Trev, this is a situation where they just hired all these new coaches. I don't know them all that well. Like, this is their first year. We haven't seen them finish one recruiting cycle. We haven't seen them coach one season. So how could I possibly talk about how, number one, there will be continuity, and then number two, how that continuity is going to look from a result standpoint? So that's why it's impossible for me to answer that question with a buy. So yeah, I got
you and I
see
that. Yeah, you and I see that very much the same. I'm actually going to go with sell here, not because I don't think they have the ability to put together consistent top 5 defenses. That's not why. But just playing the odds, if Notre Dame is going to have the level of success that we think that they're going to have over the next couple of seasons, 26, 27, potentially 28, depending on who comes back and what some of the development is starting to look like on the team, there's a good chance that some of the coaches won't be back. If Notre Dame goes out and wins a national title this year, I don't know if Chris Ash comes back in 2027, depending on what kind of job offers he gets or what that looks like. Not predicting that he leaves, but yeah, that's just kind of the nature of the beast now.
I mean, and honestly, Trevor, if your coaches aren't leaving, sometimes that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
That means they're not coveted. That means they're not guys that are in demand. I mean, you kind of want your assistant coaches to be getting head coaching jobs and coordinator offers, and if they're position coaches and NFL offers, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, do I think that there's a chance, if this staff stays together, that for a couple of years they could accomplish those things? I think there's certainly an opportunity, and I think some of the coaches are probably not guys that are going to be moving on to coordinator jobs. But like, if Notre Dame has an elite defense this year, there will probably be some schools looking for head coach that'll want Chris Ash. There will be NFL teams looking for defensive coordinators who might like Chris Ash. There will be teams looking for defensive coordinators that are going to be calling Aaron Henry, and schools looking for defensive coordinators that are going to be calling Brian Jean-Marie. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing, in my opinion. So Yeah, that's where I'm at. It's a good question there, or good submission there, Trev. I like that one. The sell. I appreciate that, but I do think where I would say, okay, the counter to what because what you're saying is right on, but when you have that kind of success that your coaches are then leaving for better jobs, it makes it even easier to go out there and replace them with really good coaches, which we just saw.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's the thing is, Al Washington sort of got a promotion. Mike Mickens got a promotion. They're going to the National Football League with the same or elevated jobs. Max Bulla got a chance to go from being a second-year full-time assistant coach to a co-defensive coordinator because the success Notre Dame had on defense the last couple seasons. That's going to lead to, okay, well, when that opening comes, I'm going to want to be talking to Notre Dame because their guys get promoted and get opportunities. And that's how you can lose a Mike Mickens and Al Washington and a Max Bulla and replace them with Aaron Henry, Brian Jean-Marie, and Charlie Partridge. Because well, yeah, I'll sign up for that. Heck yeah, man. And work for Marcus Freeman and all that. It's absolutely,
Without a doubt. I mean, the continuity will be within the standard being upheld, not the person doing it. I think to your point, like when the program is experiencing that level of success, I'm with you completely. Just, I think now it's crazy to think that guys like Kirby Smart, he was at Alabama for 9 years. Brent Venables was at Clemson for a decade. I think those days are over. But to your point, I think that the standard of the program will be as such that whoever steps in will be able to continue that. So I get that completely.
There will be some coaches that like being assistant coaches. Like if Mike Denbrock's rolling, I don't see him going anywhere. But usually to Trevor's point, those things don't happen for a decade long. I think there's a world in which some guys just love being at a place.
Sure.
And they don't want to be head coaches or Kirby Smart turned down a lot of head coaching jobs because there was one he wanted. He was happy at Georgia and there was only one that he wanted. And that was at his alma mater. And then when he got it, he was out. So, and Brent Venables was a similar situation. Brent Venables was not someone that was banging down the door to be a head coach, but he'd been at Oklahoma. Obviously, there's ties there for him, and that was the right opportunity. That could be the case for some coaches. I just don't know that that's who Chris Ash is or some of these other guys are. That's my only concern.
From D-Troll Hunter, Texas Tech replaces Michigan as the most delusional fan base. Honestly, this is kind of rare for me to start something out with back-to-back sells, but I'm going to sell this. I don't think Texas Tech is now the most delusional fan base. I still think, and this is just recency bias and my own, personal, I hesitate to use the word vendetta. I'm still going USC. I think their fan base is, especially the social media fan base, is very, very delusional. And at
USC's Twitter fan base is very nuts.
Yeah. And at least with Michigan, they are a delusional fan base. They did still win a national championship in the last 5 years.
They've won 2 national championships in the last 3 years in major sports.
Yeah.
I mean, they won basketball in 23. I know they cheated. I get it. Whatever. They still won. And they also won the men's basketball championships this past year. So they're annoying, but they're not delusional because why wouldn't they think that their team can win? So Texas Tech, I'm actually gonna buy this. It was actually the only thing that I would have pushed back on is that Michigan was the most before Texas Tech. That's the only pushback that I actually give, Trev. And it sounds like that's your pushback too. It's not that Texas Tech's fan base isn't delusional. It clearly is.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so, I don't think they're replacing Michigan. I think they're replacing someone else. And I don't think Michigan was the most delusional fan base. I think now you could say delusional in that they didn't think, they were going to go to the grave swearing they didn't cheat. That's every fan base just about. If your team won a championship and you got accused of cheating, you defend them until you had no breath left. Let's just be honest about that. They're not unique in that regard.
No, not at all. I'm with you. Then buy, sell, hold, another one from D-Troll. Washington will finish higher ranked in team defense than they will on team offense.
I'm going to sell this one. Washington's defense has a bit of a ways to go if they're going to get to that point. Looking at last year, I know they had 2 big losses. Obviously, they lost Jonah Coleman. They also lost. I'm drawing a blank. Denzel Boston. I kept wanting to say David Boston. I'm like, nope, that ain't it. They lost him, but I still feel like that's a team offensively. They've got a very dynamic quarterback coming back. Trev, they've, offensive line wise, I think, there's some players they've got to replace. They've got some guys coming back. But I feel like defensively, I feel like they got a lot further to go, in my opinion, defensively than they do offensively. Offensively, it's just about, can you keep doing what you're doing? They were solid on defense last year, but they weren't great whenever they had, had anybody that was like good. They played, they just weren't quite as good. And so I'm not a big fan of their defense necessarily being a whole lot better than it was last year. So I think their offense has a chance to be pretty good. So, I mean, they were better on defense last year than they were 2 years ago, obviously, but I don't know. I'm just not in love with their defense. They got some good linebackers coming back from last year, lost a lot from their secondary. The big tall corner, what's his name? Takario Davis. He got drafted pretty high. Ephesians Pricehock is gone. They went to the portal and got some, corner from Virginia that we both like. We talked about that when we were, doing our secondary breakdowns. Their D-line lost a lot. They got a lot of portal kids. We'll see how they do, but I'm more confident their offense can keep rolling than I am that their defense is going to keep rolling, especially with DeMond Williams. The key, however, we're going to say this every time we talk about Washington. The key is going to be how well does DeMond Williams win that locker room back over after what happened. That's ultimately going to be the key to that football team. But yeah, I don't know. Go ahead, Trev.
I'll be very interested to see what Washington does this upcoming season, like year 2 under Ryan Walters. I think that'll be interesting to watch how that unfolds. One thing that I do know about Washington is they're going to have a very old defense. Like I'm talking like the age of their players. I mean, everybody in their front seven is a senior, like either academically or eligibility wise. So it'll be very experienced. I don't know how much
pickups were mostly one and dones, like sort of at least seniors and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be very curious to see what they do this upcoming season. I don't know how much it weighs into it, but FanDuel has Washington finishing with lower odds to win the Big Ten than USC and Penn State. So I don't know how they overall feel about Washington, but I'm with you, D-Troll. I wouldn't bet on it, but I wouldn't also be beside myself if it happened. Washington's just an interesting egg to crack. I'll be very curious to see what they do this season for sure. Then Texas A&M will finish with the #1 overall recruiting class in 2027.
If we're talking recruiting rankings, I think they'll finish with the #1 ranked recruiting class, barring just another collapse. I honestly, I think A&M and Notre Dame finish 1-2 in the recruiting rankings when it's all said and done. The only thing that's I say I would push back on, I've said this before, it's what Notre Dame is getting more respect right now in the recruiting trail, but there's still way too many Notre Dame players that are ranked way too low by the recruiting services. And so you're seeing that continue to happen. A&M's not having that case. I mean, but their recruiting class so far is outstanding, Trevor. This isn't even it's not as good as Notre Dame's. I'm simply saying if they both finish how I think they're going to finish, I think A&M's going to get a win over Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame's going to get a couple wins over A&M is kind of how I predict this to go. But there's some guys that they're not technically wins over Notre Dame because Notre Dame wasn't in the recruitments at the end, but John Meredith, John Dobson, I think they're going to get at least one of those guys. Their D-line class, they've already got Zyron Forstall. They just signed 2 5-star, just got commitments from 2 5-star tackles and Mark Matthews and Kennedy Brown. Their receiver class is off to a good start. So I love Texas A&M's class, and Mike Elko's doing a great job there. I think we could debate when it's all said and done, Trev, hey, I know that they're ranked #1, but I would take Notre Dame's class over Texas A&M's class. I think there's a commitment to be had or a debate to be had there because I think there's a couple guys for A&M that I think are a tad overrated. A couple guys that I think are even for A&M that are a little bit underrated, but it's more so about I think Notre Dame's kids are still too underrated. I'm also very curious to see who who both teams finish off with. They're very close in numbers right now. Texas A&M has 14, Notre Dame has 17. So a lot of it's going to be determined by the finish for both teams. But if it finishes the way that I think it's going to finish, and Notre Dame has those 2 big wins over A&M, then I think Notre Dame will have the better class, even though A&M's will maybe finish higher. But if they beat Notre Dame for 1 or 2 of those, then I think A&M has hands down number 1, not only ranking, but then number 1 in my opinion as well. And so a lot of it's going to come down to battles between the two. And I'm looking at, obviously, how do they finish with John Meredith and Josh Dobson? Who wins the Albert Simeon battle? Who wins the Caden Henderson battle? There's a lot of those kind of discussions. But I think the trajectory, based on how I think things are going to finish, I do think Texas A&M and Notre Dame are going to have the 2 best classes in the country. And there's going to be several others, and you also have to be more careful with how you evaluate, who's recruiting the best, because some teams are intentionally going to bring in smaller classes. LSU has no chance this year, for example. I'm saying this for our friend Big. They have no chance at having a top 5 recruiting class in high school, in my opinion. But part of that's by choice, because they're not recruiting a big high school class. And so they're going to focus more on initially building through the portal. So you have to look at it a little bit differently, but A&M's clearly trying to build through high school recruiting first and foremost. Notre Dame is as well. Ohio State is, Georgia is, and Oklahoma is trying to do that also. You're seeing Brent Venables under the leadership of Jim Nagy and Lake Dawson. Hey, we're going to go to the portal to get ourselves rolling, but we want the foundation to continue to be high school recruiting. They've already got 21 kids committed in the 27 class. They've got an excellent class as well. So, so that's kind of part of it. But the other thing is, does Champ Mons finally get properly ranked? Does Lathan Wissington get properly ranked? Some of those lower ranked guys that are, in my opinion, woefully underrated, are they going to be able to get properly ranked? Because if they are, then I think that impacts Notre Dame's kind of range of, will they be number 1 or will they be number 3 if they finish that way? So that's kind of where I'm at, Trev, on that one. I think, but if I had to predict right now, I'd predict Texas A&M.
Yeah, I would as well. And we could get into the discussion of depends on the outlet that you look at, On 3, 247, but I'm with you in that. I'm curious to see what some Notre Dame commits will be ranked after their senior seasons of high school. Champ Mons on 247 is basically unranked right now. He's a 3-star. Lathan Wissington is I think he's also unranked nationally on 247 Sports.
He's a freaking 3-star. That's stupid. A kid in Big Boy, Texas, averaging over 9 yards a carry and over 1,500 yards rushing, who runs a 10.43, and you're going to say he's a 3-star? Whatever.
Right. Nah, it misses me, and I would be shocked if he remains, if guys like Lathan Wissington and Champ Mons remain a 3-star after their senior year. So yeah, that'll play a factor as well.
Yep, big time. But there are 4 or 5 teams right now that are really putting together some awesome classes for 2027. But how they finish is going to determine, where teams are. Oklahoma's putting together a really strong class. Ohio State's, they're a strong finish away from, again, having a really strong class. Texas Tech obviously is, got some highly ranked kids. USC is, probably going to fade a little bit because they're not going to take a whole lot more. Miami's got a chance if they can finish strong to have a really good class. So all those things kind of factor in. Oregon has a chance with a strong finish to jump up into that conversation as well.
Some more from D-Troll. Biso hold USC fans should feel embarrassed that their school is now directly copying Notre Dame recruiting material.
I think this goes back to, I'll sell this. Well, I'll buy that they should. I'll sell that because they don't. But yes, they should. Their fans aren't smart enough to understand that this does not a good look for them. They view it as oh, we're trolling Notre Dame. Okay. To me, that says a lot about you, that you got to still take shots at a team that you clearly didn't want to play. Notre Dame's not worried about USC. They don't do things, take shots at USC, because USC, it's dude, you're not us. We're not trying to compete to beat you. Number one, we don't play anymore. Number two, you're behind us. So why would we care about you? We're trying to become a championship team. You can win the social media wars we'll go ahead and win football games. And they're not smart enough to do it. It's just that it's the society we live in a lot of ways, Trev. I mean, no matter what you get into, I always we don't talk politics, but I think there's a lot of, when it comes to social media and media, I think there's a lot more similarity than there used to be.
Yeah.
It's like you get into these political battles online, and it's like nobody's actually debating like, hey, what are the cost, to negative bet, we talk about tariffs, right? Like, okay, is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What are the positives? What are the negatives? And let's have an honest debate about whether this is good or bad. No, it's like, let's dunk on the libs, or let's dunk on the Republicans. And it's like, no matter what your side does, you're like, oh, we dunked on. It's like, no, we're trying to have a grown-up debate that affects like how our society is going to function. And all you want to do is win a social media battle. And that's how sports has become. I don't care what this means or how stupid this makes you look, but it's like, oh, we owned them on social media. Hey, your team still sucks. So good for you. Your social media team cares more about Notre Dame than Notre Dame's social media team cares about USC. Congrats. Enjoy still being not even in the top 3 in your league.
Yeah. Perfectly added. Perfectly said. I got nothing more to add. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Viso hold Brendan Sorsby is not a top 10 quarterback for you in the class of 2027. As of today, gambling issues excluded from the discussion.
Trev, I don't think either of us had him in our top 10.
No.
I could be mistaken, but I don't think that we did.
Nope. I don't. I know I didn't. So, yeah, it's the discussion with Texas Tech at quarterback is always interesting. Like you said, gambling issues aside, 2 things can be true. I think Brendan Sorsby is going to be an upgrade at quarterback from what they had last year with Baron Morton, but that also doesn't make Brendan Sorsby a top 10 quarterback. I think both of those things can be true, and that's how I feel about this one. So it's a buy for me.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go see. Do you remember about it? Was it pre-spring that we did the
let me look
quarterback rankings? Because I feel like maybe I did have him in the top 10, and I can't remember. Let me see here real quick. Actually, there's a. I'm searching the wrong way. I actually searched.
We did it on February 3rd.
Okay, here. So there's yours. You did not. I did not have him in my top 10. I'm correct. I did not have my top 10. So yeah, he's not in my top 10. I had Dante Moore, CJ Carr, Arch Manning, Trinidad Chambliss, Josh Hoover, Julian Sand, Byron Brown, Darian Mensah, Damon Williams, and Malik Washington. That was my 10. So no, I did not have my top 10. So I'll buy that. I agree with your assessment, though, by the way. That's an upgrade over Baron Morton. He's not an elite quarterback.
Then from D-Troll, buy, sell, hold. The biggest question mark for Miami is offensive line play.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I think that's their biggest question mark right now. How good would their offensive line be? I think that fits with what we've talked about for them. Trev, don't you?
Yeah. It's if I had to go 1-2, I'd say 1 is the offensive line and 2 is depth on defense. Miami's defense is in a spot where they can't really afford too many injuries. And
up front,
if I remember correctly, last year, like that wasn't really a problem. But I know.
I mean, they were waving it with you up front. I mean, like obviously they had the two standout defensive ends last year, and that ended up being first round picks. But when there was a period of time where like they both got banged up and they weren't playing as much last year, so that's fine. They're just they're throwing Marquise Lightfoot at you. They're throwing Armando Blunt at you. Like they can handle those kind of things for a couple weeks. This year, I'm not sure they have quite as much. And then on the inside, you obviously had Ahmed Moten, you had Justin Scott, you had the kid that from what's his name, Blay from Louisiana Tech that transferred in. So you had a little bit better depth last year than they had this year, and I think that's obviously depth is a concern, but I don't think it's as big of a concern for me as offensive line, because offensive line is a concern now, meaning it's a question mark. How well will Jackson Cantwell play as a freshman? Is Samson Okunlola ready to become a full-time player? Will he live up to his big-time potential? Because I loved Samson Okunlola coming out of high school. He was a dude. Will Ryan Rodriguez be able to stay healthy at center? Like there's those type of things. How will they play together? Those are all things that are fair questions. But they're the biggest question mark for a team that you and I both view as a no-brainer top 10 preseason team. And so it's not like it's going to keep them from being, can they be a 10-win team if they're all, no, it's like, okay, are they a 10-2 team or an 11-1 team, or are they a 9-3 team or an 11-1 team? That's the concern about their offensive line. It's not like they're going to revert back to 2023 levels or anything like that because their offensive line. But could it be the thing that keeps them from competing for a championship? Yeah. Whereas like the defensive line, Trev, I agree with your assessment, but that's more of if someone gets hurt, then it becomes an issue. Whereas the offensive line, like the present is a concern.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's where I'm at. Not an issue for them in the secondary. They have great depth on the back end of their secondary.
They do.
Great depth.
They absolutely do. Had Matt Campbell have been hired immediately after firing James Franklin, Penn State fans would have been livid. The only reason they got excited about his hire at all is because the process was so ugly.
You know what? I'm going to buy this, D-Troll Hunter. But I think that's probably a good thing that it played out the way that I did. Because I think they were so delusional. And again, I think the Penn State fan base has always been way more delusional than the Michigan fan base. They were so delusional into thinking they were going to get like a James Frank. They were going to get like a Marcus Freeman. They were going to get a Bob Chesney or Matt Rule, which I don't know that Matt Rule would have been a better hire than Matt Campbell, but whatevs. I mean, he's done at Nebraska what Matt Campbell's done at Iowa State. With all due respect, it's more impressive when you do it at Iowa State than when you do it in Nebraska. But yeah, he wouldn't have been a big enough splash hire, in my opinion, for them to be excited about. But I end up thinking he's a good hire. I think Matt Campbell's a good football coach. I just don't think Matt Campbell's a championship caliber football coach at a place like Penn State. That's the problem. And can he get you to the point where you are making those deep playoff runs like Franklin had? That's going to be the question. Like, there's no question Matt Campbell's a better game day football coach than James Franklin. But if James Franklin has significantly better roster than you, and you're simply just a better game day coach, you're still going to get beat. It just may be closer than it should be. You know what I mean? And that's the concern I have about Matt Campbell is, can he recruit at a high enough level to win there? That's where I'm at.
No, I think that's completely fair. D-Troll, I'm actually going to sell this because of the delusion of the Penn State fan base. They would have found a way to spin it no matter when he got hired. I definitely get the point of where you're coming from, but I mean, I honestly genuinely believe that. I'm not even trying to be snarky. Like, I think whenever they would have hired Matt Campbell, it would have been, you know what, it's actually going to be an upgrade because he is a better game day coach. And, but then where it would have gotten taken too far is like, Penn State's a big enough brand that it recruits itself. I'm not worried about them taking a step back in recruiting and kind of discrediting what James Franklin did on the recruiting trail. And, it would have been a lot of that. So I don't know if they ever would have been livid about it because that's just kind of the world that they live in.
Somebody in the chat said James Franklin wasn't a championship caliber coach either. I understand that, but that's where I think you're missing the point. They still won a lot of games because they always had one of the most talented teams in the country. They would just out-talent you. And James Franklin, for most of his tenure, now there was a couple stretches like in the, after COVID where they weren't that good. They rallied back, but when they've been good, it's just they out-talent people. Trevor, you and I were talking about this as you're doing research for an article that you're going to be working on about Northern recruiting. But I mean, look at the NFL draft, look at the combine. Penn State was constantly putting freaks into the combine and high draft picks because they were very good talent evaluators and very good recruiters. The reason he could never beat good teams is because Ohio State also has that kind of talent. Yeah. Michigan, when they were good, had that kind of talent. Notre Dame had that kind of talent. Oregon had that kind of talent, but they were all coached better. And that's why they could never win those big games. But like the last couple of years, until the fall apart this year, they only lost the games to teams that were on their level. That's the problem. But I don't care how good of a coach you are. If you can't recruit, you can coach. You can be a good coach all you want. But if your players aren't nearly as good as Notre Dame's, then you're going to be in trouble. Hey, Trev, just a quick heads up. We're getting a storm right now, and so we're already starting to have some power issues. I'm going to have to send you the cards. So if for some reason we get power goes out here, you'll have the cards to be able to continue this thing. So just give me 1 second because I want the show to be able to go on, Trevor. That's what I want to happen.
Understandably so.
So I will send you these cards right now, so you'll have them in case we get booted out of here. But
Easiest way.
I'll work on that.
No, I appreciate you. Easiest way, if you could, is if you emailed them to me.
Okay, I'll do that as well. But I also
sir.
just send them to you in a text message so we can get them to you. Get them to you
Right
quickly. But yeah, so let's keep this thing rocking and rolling in the meantime.
From grubbing up Heisman, buy, sell, hold. With more professional players and the NFLPA pushing to have grass fields, Notre Dame should go back to grass as a selling point.
Definitely sell that one. I don't understand what the issue is with NFL teams. I know there's some research and stuff out there about injuries and all that. I don't pay enough attention to the NFL to really have an opinion on that. So I'm sorry, I don't. Here's what I know about Notre Dame. I feel like people who are nostalgic for grass field forget how bad Notre Dame Stadium looked every year in November. It was terrible in November. And it's hard to maintain a grass field in the North. I understand the Packers do it, but the Packers just run a football organization. That's all they do. That's where all their money goes. They have a lot of special heating, this and that, and it is not cheap. Also, we all know this. Notre Dame loves making money. I mean, we can be honest about that. And yes, they had concerts and stuff when they had grass field, but what always happened whenever they did that? Their field would always get torn up. Now they can have those things, and then as soon as they take everything down, your field's completely fine. So I just don't see any scenario on it. I don't think Notre Dame has any kind of higher number of injuries at home than they have on the road. We had this conversation 2 years ago, and people were like, oh, you remember so-and-so got hurt at home against Louisville? And I'm like, yeah, the 2 weeks before on the road against Purdue, they had 3 guys go down with knee injuries. So I don't, Notre Dame hasn't had that issue. I can't speak to the research that's done, at the NFL level and why the NFLPA does that. I couldn't tell you. But I don't think that's something that Notre Dame should do. I don't think that's something that would make a ton of sense. And the reality is most fields you play on for a championship in college are going to be, some of them are going to be grass if it's in Dallas, and if it's in New Orleans, if it's in Indianapolis, if it's in Las Vegas, you're not getting grass fields. I don't believe like Vegas is a grass field. Maybe it is. So I just don't think. It's just not something I care about. So I'll sell that.
Yeah, I know like the NFLPA has done their own research about why they should go back. It's like a higher percentage rate of injuries and all that. Players talk about how there's less give and there's more like twisting force. But I don't, by and large, I just don't think what the NFL decides to do should be then inflicted or influenced for Notre Dame to make their decisions. So that's overall why I'm selling it. I'm with you. Mm-hmm. Then with changes in how the triple option teams are allowed to block, Navy, Army, and Air Force should transition to a classic air raid system.
Sell. I mean, Navy's been perennially a 10-plus win team the last few years. I mean, they're a really good football team. In the last 2 years, they beat 2 years ago, they beat Missouri. Who was it they beat last year, Trev? They beat another Power 4 team in last season. Let me find who was it? Do you remember who it was? Who they beat at the end? It was Cincinnati. Blew Cincinnati out last year. They were 11-2 last year. They were 10-3 the year before that. Army this past season had a bit of a down year, but they still went 7-6 and blew out UConn in a bowl game. Beat Kansas State at home, and then really, if it wasn't for the Tarleton State loss, we're having a different They had 2 bad losses last year, Tarleton State and Tulsa. But this is also a team that blew out UConn, lost to Tulane in a close game, lost to North Texas by a touchdown, beat Kansas State on the road, and went 7-6. And the year before that, they went 12-2. So
is Brian frozen or is it me? Because I know he was having some weather issues. Chat, I don't know if you could put in here who's frozen, if it's me or Brian. Okay, so it is Brian that's frozen. Well, here's hoping that his weather comes back here pretty soon. But I'll continue on with what he was saying. A lot of the buy sell hold cards. So apologies here. A lot of the buy sell hold cards came in as like individual things, and I didn't have time to put like a slideshow together. So I might just have to do what they do on the evening show and rip through. Oh, okay, there we go. And then rip through some of it on the actual message board. So apologies there. So let me get some of these pulled up here. But as far as what he was saying on the, as far as what he was saying on the, let me see here. Can everybody see this? I might have to blow it up a little bit. If you guys can all see the actual screen here. But as far as what he was saying about the triple option, I'm also going to sell that one. I think Navy did a good job of altering what they needed to do on the offensive side of the ball. Because if you guys remember, the offense that they were running with like Keenan Reynolds is much different than what they tried to do with Blake Horvath. They were much more willing to throw the football. So, for example, I mean, if you go and you look at what Navy has done the last couple of seasons on offense, now, again, it's going to look different. But as far as passing attempts per game or overall in the total season, they had 182 passing attempts in 2025. In 2021, Navy finished dead last in the country with 97. So they're adding almost 100 passing attempts in the season because they need to make sure that they are staying more, I guess you could say, more relevant and up to date with some of these times in college football now. But they also don't have the recruiting power to go out and get like a 4-star gunslinger quarterback. They don't have like the recruiting power because they are a service academy to go out and get a 3-4-star wide receiver that they can go in and develop into a player like what Jordan Faison became. That's one of the things that's going to be interesting with them. So I'll be curious to see how Navy continues to do it. Hello, Brian. But I'm with you. I'm selling it overall. I had to pull up the actual thread because they all came in as individual cards.
Yeah, you just got to open them up as one at a time. So I'll bring this up now. I emailed them to you also. So we'll bring this one up now, and then you can open those up so you have them ready in case this happens again, because the sky just got dark. Man, like when the power went out, because where I'm in the basement, I only have like that little small window. It got pitch black as soon as it went out. There's no light coming through that window. So yeah, so we'll go and have these get these rocking and rolling again, Trev. Sorry about that, everybody, but no, I'm with you. Navy and Army have been pretty good teams recently. That's still their best chance to win, and they won't be able to have the athletes to run those type of systems with any consistency.
Some more from Grubbing Up Heisman. Buy, sell, hold. Oregon calls Notre Dame, saying they want to be the preeminent West Coast program. They want 10-year home and home deal played Thanksgiving weekend. Buy, you say yes. Sell, you say no. Hold, you want a shorter term deal.
I would probably hold and say I want a shorter term deal. I don't know that I have a strong desire to have a 10-year deal with Oregon. Because here's the reality.
All right, I think he might be frozen again. I'll just keep talking, and if it's not him, then it's me. But I think I'm also going to sell this one as well. I mean, with one of those, here's the frustrating thing with the Oregon series. I like where Oregon is at as a program, but I don't think Notre Dame needs to go out and schedule every single premier program, because if you think about some of their schedules down the road in the future, think about 2029 when they play Clemson and Alabama and Texas. Those are one of the seasons where it's like, okay, where do you fit Oregon in this conversation? I wouldn't be opposed to them having like a relatively close, maybe 2 on, 2 off type of deal. But that's kind of how I look at that that's kind of how I look at it with the Oregon series. I just don't think that they need to have those. So that's kind of above all else where I'm at with the Oregon one. I'm sure Brian, when he gets back, hopefully he'll be able to give a little bit more in there. So let me see here if I can go back and do this again. All right. I know this is kind of not how we do things here, so my apologies, but I just cannot get these cards because they all got sent to me like individually, and I'm not entirely sure how to get all of those pulled up, not in the slide. So whenever Brian comes back, we'll get things switched back over. So this one is from BJam and 41. Viso hold Pat Fitzgerald will coach longer at Michigan State than Lane Kiffin will at LSU. Boy. I guess it depends on how you want to look at this one. For me, I'm going to sell it. I think Lane Kiffin has shown, like, I have questions about who he is off the field. I have questions about who he is, when he's not on the field as a coach, but I really like what he's done with Ole Miss, or what he did with Ole Miss. Like, let's not forget the fact that, Ole Miss just had their best season in program history with 11 wins in the regular season. I know he didn't coach in the postseason in the playoffs, but that team, that team was built by what Lane Kiffin did. That's why we have the questions about Pete Golding that we have. Now, the question that I have, and Insured by Big actually brought it up. The one caveat to that is Michigan State has been a lukewarm program for quite some time. The outlier to their program over the last decade has been 2021. If you guys remember, that was their 11-win season. They had Kenny Walker at running back, and their game against, I believe they beat, they beat and upset Michigan during that season. So, very, very curious to see how that one pans out. But I think in general, I'm going to sell it. I think I think Lane Kiffin's going to have success at LSU. I just hope that LSU fans, by and large, are patient enough to not expect him to go 11-1 in his first season at LSU. Let him get some time under his belt. Let him get some recruiting classes under his belt. Because I do agree with what Brian said. This year, I don't think LSU has a chance to have a top 5 recruiting class. That's the nature of the beast right now. I think that Lane Kiffin should, keyword here, should, be able to start stacking good high school recruiting classes and building up the pipeline the longer that he is in Baton Rouge. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I'll probably stick with selling that for now. I think Lane Kiffin is going to be at LSU for quite some time. Next one here from BJM and 41. Notre Dame fans should prepare themselves that winning it all will only create more hate and jealousy for the national media and opposing fans than praise. I'll buy it, but I'll give this caveat. The reason why I'm buying it is because Notre Dame, like we know, generates a lot of money. And Notre Dame, whenever their name is attached to it, generates a lot of clicks. I saw something that Rivals on 3 put out, and it said that 2 of their 3 biggest commitment shows this season have been Olu Olubabola's commitment, and his name is escaping me. It's not Braden Parks. It's not Marcus Fakatu. It's the other defensive tackle, David Folorunshio. Those are 2 of the 3 biggest recruiting commitment shows that they've had in quite some time, and Notre Dame's name was attached to it. Now, I don't think that that's a coincidence. Brian has listed off the countless ACC games when Notre Dame's name is attached to it. It gets significantly more and more and more and more views. So that's how I view that, honestly. So should they prepare themselves? It'll create more jealousy and hatred. I think amongst the media, not initially, because it'll be a lot of headlines about, Notre Dame finally ends a streak, Notre Dame back on top, and that's going to get a lot of hatred. But from the fans, yeah, because we're already starting to see it. It's, they have the advantage because they're not in a conference. It's okay. Well, what's the advantage? Like we've talked about on the show before, what's the advantage that other people don't have? When, what's the rule that says you have to be independent or you can't be independent? So it'll be a lot of that. And then I think as the offseason transitions, once outlets like ESPN and CBS Sports have kind of made their money off of the clicks of Notre Dame back on top, Notre Dame ends a streak, yada, 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 then it'll turn to, here's the laundry list of reasons why we don't think that Notre Dame can do it again. They just lost X amount of draft picks. They lost this coach to a different job, and all of those different things. So I think it'll be short-lived, but by and large, I'll buy that one. I think you're onto something there, BJ. And then another one from him. It wouldn't totally surprise you if this season USC has a 2025 Penn State-like collapse. Well, I'm going to sell it because what Penn State go this past year? 7-6, and Lincoln Riley's already done that. I mean, I think for them to have a Penn State-like collapse, like the reason why the Penn State collapse was so shocking is because the year prior, they played in the Big Ten championship game. They played in the college football playoff semifinals, played Notre Dame down to the wire. And, to them, we're a field goal away, a Drew Aller interception away from playing Ohio State in a rematch in the national title game. Whereas for USC, they've never made the playoffs. And so if they have a Penn State-like collapse, going from 9-4 to 7-6, I don't really know if I count that as a collapse. That would be a step back from what they did. But, I mean, for Penn State, they were returning both of their running backs, and Drew Aller was coming back. And I know they lost Abdul Carter, but they still denied Dennis Sutton and Zane Durant coming back. Most of their secondary stayed intact. So that's why that collapse was so big. I mean, for USC this year, they lost Mekhi Lemon, who won the Biletnikoff. They lost a couple of other receivers. Their best guy coming back is Tanuk Hines. So I don't know if they do go 7-6. I don't think that would be a Penn State-like collapse. If USC has a Penn State-like collapse this year, I think that would mean that they go from what they were last year at 9-4 to not bowl eligible. I'm not on the USC hype train by any means, but I also don't see them not being bowl eligible, because that's also not something that Lincoln Riley is not. I don't actually know the last time Lincoln Riley was not bowl eligible. As a head coach, Lincoln Riley in 9 years is 90-28. And the worst season that he's had was 7-6 at USC in 2024. So he's never not been bowl eligible. I don't see that happening for them this year. So that's kind of where I view them. But I definitely don't. I've seen so many preseason rankings that have them. I saw one that had them at 10th in the country. I've seen some with them at 11th, 12th, 13th. I don't see them being a cusp playoff team this year. So, but I am going to sell it. I don't think they'll have a Penn State-like collapse. Then some more from BJam and 41. Buy, sell, hold each Notre Dame position that will have the biggest improvement from last year to this year. Wide receiver, D-line, O-line. So I guess buy one, sell one, hold one. I think I'm okay. I'm going to buy the offensive line, hold the wide receiving core, and sell the D-line. And I'll work front to back, or I'll work back to front here. The reason why I'm selling the defensive line is because I thought they were a very, 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 very underrated group last year. Notre Dame's defense led the entire country in total pressures at the end of the regular season. Notre Dame made a tremendous jump as far as their run defense is concerned from 24 to 25. The reason why I'm selling their defensive line is when I look at them, I don't think that they have as much room of improvement to go as what the offensive line and the wide receiving core does. So that's why I sold the D-line. They were a really, really, really good unit last year. The question is can they go from really, 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 really good to elite? I don't think that's as big of a jump as what the offensive line or the wide receivers have to make. The reason why I held wide receivers is I think you had players in the right spot last year. Some guys have to get and remain healthy. We obviously know about Jaden Greathouse. He needs to get back and stay healthy. Jordan Faison needs to continue doing what he's doing. And then of the two Ohio State transfers, what kind of contributions do we get from them? So that'll be something that I'll be paying attention to. And then the offensive line, the reason why I bought them, why I think they'll have the biggest improvement is now Joe Rudolph has put together, and we saw this at the start of spring, an offensive line that is now Joe Rudolph has now put together an offensive line that looks like how it should. All the people are in the right spots. Will Black is at left tackle. Anthony Knapp got kicked to inside. The ceiling of this offensive line is higher than the ceiling of last year's offensive line. And that's saying something because last year's offensive line had two team captains on it in Emil Wagner and Billy Schrouth. And so I'll buy O-line here, but I'll be very, very interested to see how they continue. We're still rolling here on the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, and we have buy, sell, hold going on today. Some weather issues. Brian is working on getting his power back on, and we're going to see, and hopefully he's going to be able to come back and join us because this is the first buy, sell, hold that we've done in a couple weeks. But right now, we're running solo here. We have the buy, sell, hold up. Said it last segment, but if you're just now joining us, apologies. I'm not able. Something's happening with my computer now to where I can't get these cards to come up individually. Normally, we have the nice cards up. So I just shared my screen, and this is what it looks like on the premium message board. So for people who are not subscribed to the premium message boards at boards@irishbreakdown.com, This is what a thread looks like on the premium message board, and this is how you can go in and submit all the buy, sell, hold questions that you would like. But rolling here in part 2, we have BJam and 41 keeping us going. Says it will be more challenging for Freeman to have his players block out the praise from outsiders, which is rat poison, than keeping them hungry and leave no doubt all season. Be more challenging. I'm actually going to sell this. I listen to a lot of the press conferences. I listen to a lot of the, and a common theme for Marcus Freeman over the course of his tenure hasn't been like blocking out the outside media. Now, do I believe every single player when they're like, I don't even have Twitter? It's like, well, a lot of kids do. I don't know if I believe that every single one of them have. And in the same light that I don't believe Marcus Freeman all the time when he's like, yeah, I never look at social media. I have no idea what's happening in social media. Even if you're not the one running your own Twitter, we all know that it gets back to you in some way. The same way that like us here at Irish Breakdown, I know a lot of people don't watch ESPN, but just either what friends send to you, or if you're scrolling, you see a clip of an ESPN show, whether that's Cam Newton talking some mess or Paul Feinbaum saying something anti-Notre Dame, one of those things. So yeah, I don't really buy into that, but I will say the reason why I'm selling this is Marcus Freeman, the issue in his tenure so far has been keeping the players focused on a week-to-week basis. And I don't think that's because of social media. I think that's because when they prepare to play an inferior opponent, they just assume the talent will take over. And I mean, there's been countless examples of this. Northern Illinois in 2024, they weren't focused. You had a 6-year defensive player say that he didn't even know who Northern Illinois was. That's not something you want to admit to when you're getting ready to play one of your 12 guaranteed opportunities that Marcus Freeman likes to talk about. So I do think the biggest challenge will be, keeping them hungry. It's keeping your line of focus for the task at hand. And I think that's something that they touched on. CJ Carr was asked about, I know you have your calendar circled for November 7th, like a lot of people do, and like a lot of people should. But CJ Carr talked about, said, yeah, but we also have Wisconsin circled. We have this game circled. And the guy was like, well, you can't have Rice circled. And he's like, we do. Because in order to leave no doubt, it's the culmination of your resume over 12 games. And so that's why I'm selling this. I don't think he's going to have to focus too hard on blocking out the praise, especially early on. There's no opponent that Notre Dame is going to beat early on. Like Notre Dame's not going to go and beat what? I think right now FanDuel has Notre Dame favored by 19.5 points over Wisconsin. If they go out and beat Wisconsin by 24 points, the praise isn't going to start flooding in saying like Notre Dame's ready to win the Natty, look out world. I don't think it'll be that. Now, we could have a debate about, okay, at the end of the season, if from October 17th to the end of the year, they beat a ranked BYU team on the road, they beat a ranked Navy team at home on Halloween, they beat a ranked Miami team in South Bend at night in November, and then they beat a ranked SMU team at home on Senior Day. Maybe going into the playoffs, there can be a little bit of that discussion, but definitely not now, definitely not early on into the season. So I think that's why I'm going to sell it. Then one more from BJam and buy, sell, hold, the least interesting All-Stars event. The NBA dunk competition, the Major League Home Run Derby, or the NFL Flag Football Pro Bowl. I'm buying the NFL Flag Football Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl over the last couple of years has just gone way down the drain. And I'm not somebody that like pounds my fist on the table to defend the NFL. But I don't need to see Jamar Chase playing dodgeball. I don't got to see that. I want them to bring back like the early 2000s skills competition where like the quarterbacks are seeing who can throw the farthest. That's back when they had like the funding to make it super nice. So they just attached like a big wooden target onto a golf cart and just had it drive diagonally across the field to see who. Then after the Flag Football Pro Bowl, I would probably hold the Major League Home Run Derby. I like watching it, but the dunk competition, it literally just all depends on who's in it. But none of these are great options, BJam. And like if you ask me of the three, which one I would like to watch, or if it's between watching like a rerun of a Notre Dame game, I would elect the rerun of the Notre Dame game. That's for sure. And then getting down here to Chard, buy one, sell one, hold one, Macho Man, Hulk Hogan, or the Ultimate Warrior. So don't be upset with me here, but these wrestlers are a little bit before my time of watching the WWE. I started watching the WWE like right when the Attitude Era was kind of at its peak. So Stone Cold Steve Austin, Goldberg was on his tear across the WWF, and obviously The Rock was phenomenal on the mic. Triple H and Shawn Michaels were D-Generation X, and so that's when I got into it. So, but if I had to rank them for like I guess lore, I'd probably buy Hulk Hogan. I'd hold the Ultimate Warrior and sell Macho Man Randy Savage. I'm sure people are going to disagree, and you'd probably be right to do so. I just don't have enough background on either Macho Man or the Ultimate Warrior. So apologies there if I offended anybody. But reason why I'm buying Hulk Hogan is like there's a great documentary out there that talks about how like Hulk Hogan was one of like the founding fathers of the WWE, and the things that he did like really helped jumpstart. Like he left the WWE, and then Vince McMahon Jr. is the one that brought him back and ignited all of it. So that's probably why I'll buy Hulk Hogan. So that's where I'm at. If anybody in the chat wants to explain to me why they would take Macho Man over the Ultimate Warrior, like, please do. I've heard that Macho Man Randy Savage was like better on the mic and a better wrestler than what the Ultimate Warrior was, but I can't speak to that firsthand. So, and then we got some in here from PJC 1122. Buy one, sell one, hold one. Dynamic defensive end duos. So the first one in here, first option is Aaron Lynch and Stephon Tuitt. Second one is Rodney Dunham and Ebenezer Utade. And then third is the potential signings of Abraham Cisse and Jackson Vaughn. It went on to say this would likely have to be junior eval since the last two have not played their final seasons yet. Okay, so if we're talking about like at the time that they came out in high school, going from junior year, this would be a better question for Brian to answer. So from what I can remember, because I didn't really get into recruiting like that, like doing junior season evals until I started at Irish Breakdown. But from what I can remember, I would buy Aaron Lynch and Stephon Tuitt. Aaron Lynch was a freak coming out of high school. And then after that, that's just so tough because like after that, it's a toss-up between Rodney Dunham and Ebenezer Utade, and then obviously Abraham Cisse and Jackson Vaughn. Abraham Cisse is one of those recruits where if you land him in the 2027 class, that's like bringing in a Rodney Dunham. You know, that's like bringing in an Aaron Lynch, just that high caliber, you know. And then with Stephon Tuitt, it's tough because the way that he would project into Notre Dame's defense currently, he'd probably be a defensive tackle. You know, he was an edge player in a 3-4 defense. I think he'd be better suited to play that Tion Gray, Jason Onye type of role on the Notre Dame defensive line on the interior. He wouldn't be used as a big plugger. I think he'd be used more as a penetrator and a pass rusher. But if we're going off of like high school evals, that's my best shot at it. Then whenever Brian's able to hop back on here, I can circle back to that question. But he did just text me and say that they're going to be out for a while. So we're going to keep rolling and plugging away here, folks. Appreciate the patience with everything. So, and then knowing Brian, we'll probably either circle back to this question like later on if he's able to hop in the show, or he'll run through the message board and give his own answers to some of these if we end up running out of questions somehow before the show gets over with. But that's my best shot at it, PJC 1122. Then up next here from Purple and Gold, kind of another resident LSU fan that is also on the premium message board. So first one, buy, sell, hold. SMU will have 2 losses before entering the month of November. I don't know about that. If I remember off the top of my head, I think we've talked about on the show quite a bit that there's a chance that they could come into the Notre Dame game undefeated. Could. So SMU starts out their season on the road on Labor Day weekend against Florida State. Again, toss up there because who knows what Florida State's going to be this year. Now, if they stack another like really bad season, I mean, they went from 10-2 to 5-7. I don't see them jumping up to 9-3, but I also don't see them being 2-10 again either. That'll be a tough test on the road, but I like what SMU has coming back. Kevin Jennings comes back at quarterback. I think they're going to have a very underrated wide receiving core led by, I think, Jalen Cooper, who's going to be a rising star for him. Biggest question that I've always had with SMU is going to be the makeup of their defensive line. They have tremendous talent on the back end of their defense, between linebacker and their secondary. But they're going to have 4 transfer portal players starting They're going to have 4 transfer portal players starting on the defensive line. And then I believe they have to replace their left tackle and their left guard, because I think from center, right guard, right tackle, those players all come back from last year. But if they're able to beat Florida State on the road to start, they get UC Davis at home on a short week. There's no bye in between their Monday game against Florida State, but at least they get to play UC Davis. A week later, they're on the road against Louisville. That'll be a really tough test for them. And then they get Missouri State at home. And then the first week of October, they get Boston College at home. They get Virginia at home. And then they get Cal at home. In between the Boston College and Virginia game, they have a bye week. And then they're on the road against Syracuse, home against Virginia Tech, home against Wake Forest, and then they're on the road against Notre Dame. So they have potential to have 2 losses. I would keep my eye out for the Louisville game on the road and then the Virginia game at home. Syracuse on the road could be tricky depending on what that offense looks like with Steve Angeli coming back healthy. They're going to be far away from how bad they were at the end of the season last year after he got hurt against Clemson, but I'm going to sell this because I don't think SMU will have 2 losses. I think between the Louisville and the Virginia game, I think they'll split and go 1-1. So we could be talking about a 9-1 football team coming to South Bend, somewhere ranked inside of the top 20, potentially even top 15 going into Notre Dame's final home game of the season, which would be huge for them. But I'm going to sell that one. And then second one from Purple and Gold, Ole Miss will have a whopping 3 losses before entering the month of October. Let me go ahead and pull up Ole Miss's schedule here real quick. Ole Miss. So you asked if they would have 3 losses before entering October. So before they get into October, they play Louisville in a neutral site. They play Charlotte at home. They play LSU at home, and they play Florida on the road. So basically you're thinking that Ole Miss loses every game then in September except for their home game against Charlotte. Oh. I think I'm going to sell that too. I'm not high on Ole Miss this year, but I'm not high on Ole Miss in the I don't think that they are going to be a playoff caliber team this year, but they do still have talent coming back, and they do still have a head coach coming back who has coached on big stages before. Now, he hasn't been the head coach at Ole Miss, having to take them through an entire offseason regime. Like he hasn't been the head coach for a full recruiting cycle or overall setting an entire team's depth chart. So that's going to be in question. But there are 2 teams on here they could potentially out-talent. They could potentially out-talent Louisville. The benefit is 3 of these 4 games are at home. Well, I think Louisville might be a neutral site. Ole Miss is just the home team. But one of these games is a neutral site. 2 of them are at home, and then they're on the road in the swamp. I don't see them beating LSU, even though they're going to get them at home. That's going to be just an absolutely huge matchup, but I have the Tigers in that one, so I'm going to sell it. I don't think the only win that they get is against Charlotte at home. And then the third one from Purple and Gold, buy, sell, hold, Oregon wins the Big Ten this year. For now, I'll buy that. Yeah, the Big Ten is not as, I guess you could say, interesting as some other conferences. I don't see the Big Ten is not like the Big 12 where right now, if you were to ask me today, I think BYU wins the Big 12, especially after what's happened to Texas Tech. But it wouldn't surprise me if Arizona State won it. Wouldn't surprise me if Houston won it. It wouldn't surprise me if Texas Tech was still able to, just with every other supporting role around whatever quarterback ends up stepping up, if they play well enough as a team to make it back there. The Big Ten, it's going to come down to Oregon, Ohio State, and IU. I don't know if IU is going to – I don't think IU has the same level of team that they had last year. I think with IU, we have to be willing to have a conversation where both things can be true. I think they will be more talented this upcoming season, but I don't know if that means they're going to be a better team than what they were. You could argue the talent on Notre Dame's 2025 roster was better than the overall talent of the 24 roster, but I think 24 was a better team. So that's kind of how I view IU this season. I don't know if they win the Big Ten. I still think they make the playoffs, though. And then with Ohio State, some of it is just, I got to see it. They made the Big Ten championship for the first time last year in 4 years, and they scored 10 points. And so I got to be able to see it. But my prediction right now for the Big Ten championship game is Oregon, Ohio State, and I have Oregon winning it. But I know that's going to be a show that we do later on. in the offseason. From Moneybag Jake 13, buy sell hold. Cam Williams climbs past Micah Gilbert during fall camp. First one of the day, I'm going to hold it, and here's why. I don't know if Cam Williams will be working directly to get into the rotation at just the boundary, whereas I think Micah Gilbert might be just in the boundary rotating with Quincy Porter this year. Cam Williams has the opportunity to make an impact at both outside receiver positions, at field and at the boundary. And so that's why I'm holding it. So it could look like he climbs past him and that he could end up getting more game reps if Micah Gilbert's not healthy or if he doesn't, build on the foundation he laid in winter workouts and early spring. But Cam Williams had a really, really strong spring. We said at the start of before spring practice at the beginning of March that this is going to be a very, very, very crucial offseason for Cam Williams. And with the young talent that they just brought in, with the 26 recruiting class, with Devin Fitzgerald and Caden Finley and Bubba Frazier and Braden Robinson and Dylan Faison, and with Elijah Burris making a surge, this is going to be a year where academically he's going into his junior season. He's going to be a redshirt sophomore this year. That Cam Williams had to show signs of life. And after spring, I think we can all confidently say that he did. A couple of big catches in the blue gold game. He was making plays early in spring. We've seen videos of him catching what looked like a tunnel screen, took that to the house for a touchdown. The entire team rallied around him and celebrated with him in the end zone. So, Cam Williams could climb past Micah Gilbert, as far as being on the field wide receiver rotation. And then Micah Gilbert just doesn't get as many snaps relative in the boundary to what Cam Williams would get to the field. But I'm holding it because I don't know if I say definitively Cam Williams will be the number 2 boundary receiver, coming out of fall camp, and Micah Gilbert will be the third. That's where my hesitation is. And then buy sell hold from Moneybag Jake 13. Rodney Dunham will find himself in the 2 deep for the edge rotation. I think some point in the middle of the season he will, so I'll buy that. Rodney Dunham showed this year that, and some people have a different opinion of him. Not that I thought he was going to be bad coming in. I did not think that at all. I just thought that the Rodney Dunham we were going to see in fall camp, we saw in the spring. I thought we were going to have to wait and let him get his feet under him. But I mean, he has the size and the build. Clearly, I mean, he's already physically ready to play. I mean, what? In their spring roster, Rodney Dunham was 6'4", 242 pounds. He already looks the part. What I wanted to see from him was, where was his football IQ at? Because I think back to a player like Madden Faramo last year. In spring practice, you could see his athleticism, his twitchiness. He was able to fly to the football. After one post-practice report last year, I talked about how I thought that Madden Faramo, one of those things didn't look like the other in the linebacking room, and that was not to disparage the other linebackers in that room. I just thought number 19 moved a little bit different, and he did. But the light bulb hadn't gone on yet. For Rodney Dunham, it took 3 practices, from my account, for that light bulb to go on, and he was making plays that some redshirt sophomores I've seen come through Notre Dame struggled to make, and he was making those as true freshmen. So, yeah, I buy this. I think he finds himself in the 2 deep edge rotation. He's going to contribute for Notre Dame in some way this year. The question is just how much and how early, not if. I think if Rodney Dunham gets enough work between on the road against North Carolina, home against Stanford, plays a little bit against Purdue and Michigan State. And odds are we'll see. I'm very confident in saying I know we'll see him against Rice. Don't know how much he's going to play week 1 against Wisconsin, but I could see him getting meaningful minutes then. I'll be interested to see what his contributions will be when they go out to the road in Provo, or when they host Miami on November 7th, or where he's at, the final 2 games of the regular season. But yes, I think he finds himself in the 2 deep. Then this offseason is the reverse of last offseason. Last season, we saw a lot of what we were familiar with heavy attack and man coverage. And game prep, it was soft zone stuff. Where this spring, it's off-ball, soft zone, but fall practice will go back to what we saw last 7 games in 2025. I hate to do this to you, Moneybag Jake, but I got to hold that one as well, because I don't know what we're going to see in the fall. I get where you're coming from, and this is 100% a thought that I've had come through my head. The last 2 practices that I got to see in like the last 2 full practices. One of them was the blue gold game, and the other one was the Jersey scrimmage. What I said then, and I'll repeat it now, is what Notre Dame was doing on defense, I believed was intentional. In what direction it was intentional, I don't know yet. I don't know if they were just intentionally playing this much zone because Chris Ash knows that what type of team they can be when they're attacking and playing press man and when they're playing aggressive and doing all of those things. And so zone is the area that he wants to work on. That's why they ran a lot of it this spring. It could be intentional that way. Or, and this is the other side that we do have to acknowledge, or it was intentional because that's all he wants to do. And I don't know the answer to those questions yet. But if this pattern holds serve, it wouldn't surprise me if, fall practice creeps around, it's towards the end of fall practice or getting ready to start installing for Wisconsin, that we start to see a lot more heavy doses of man coverage. So I could see that. But again, I go back to this, to me, isn't a conversation between what's better, man or zone. I just want the over philosophical view of Notre Dame's defense to be aggressive. You can win championships playing zone as long as it's done and taught the correct way. Getting hands on, rerouting wide receivers, getting hands on tight ends when they're running in the seams. And that is not something that we saw in the spring. So even if you are going to run a lot of zone, I think it needs to be taught differently. And you're not going to convince me that both Mike Mickens and now Aaron Henry teach zone the same way. I think that's a philosophical view that needs to be adjusted from the top down. And so that's where I feel, but that's where I'm at with this one. But I do hope that pattern holds true. Then another one from Moneybag Jake 13. Ty Washington's performance in the blue gold game as well as the Jersey scrimmage made it easier for younger tight ends to vault past him. Sell. I still think the tight end room is still relatively wide open. Like I understand the biggest takeaway from the blue gold game is one of CJ Carr's interceptions was off the hands of Ty Washington. Looked like he wasn't really confident in himself going over the middle and just didn't want to get laid out. Some of that, I don't really blame him because I watched the entire spring of Don Schuler look to headhunt anybody coming over the middle. I just can't wait to watch him do that against people that are not in the blue and gold. But, I don't think that one play is indicative of what we're going to see from Ty Washington the rest of his time in South Bend. I think the room is still very, very open. I'm very interested to see what Ian Premer does when he gets on campus. I'll have to ask Brian because I don't know when the players get in during the summer. So I don't know when he gets here, DJ McKinney gets here, or when Gregory Patrick gets here, things like that. So, but no, I'm going to sell this. I think the tight end room is very open going into fall camp. One of the things that Ty Washington has on some of these other younger players is he played the majority of the season for Notre Dame last year as their second tight end. I mean, he played more snaps last year than what obviously Cooper Flanagan did because he was hurt. Played more than what James Flanagan did because he only got in for 4 games. He played more, obviously, than Preston Frizzell because he wasn't in college yet. Played more than Ian Premer, and then he also played more than Jack Larson. So I don't think a drop in a blue gold game because nobody emerges the number one pass catcher out of the tight end room. And there were going to be players that I for sure thought somebody was going to take that next step. And we didn't see that consistently from one guy. So, no, I'm going to sell that one. Then in here from DMND13, the secondary room will score more touchdowns this year than the tight end room. All touchdowns count, including special teams. So I guess then last year you would be counting the Luke Talich special teams touchdown against Stanford as a touchdown that goes to the secondary room. I'm going to sell that. I know we saw that last year. I would be beside myself and between all of us a little sad if Notre Dame's number one starting tight end had 0 touchdown receptions on the season. I don't see that being repeatable because I think the tight ends this year are more suited to be red zone weapons than what Eli Raridan was last year. Eli Raridan did his best work in between the 20s. He was a big play threat. He was a threat in seams. We saw that against NC State where he had a 100-yard receiving game. We saw that against Texas A&M where they left him open, I believe, on a backside wheel route. Just nobody covered him. Actually, I think it was a trick play. And then nobody covered him against Miami. He ran an over route and then just broke free, turned it upfield. Nobody decided to run with him. I think Cooper Flanagan is best served as a red zone weapon. I think Ty Washington could be used as a red zone weapon on sort of like an RPO rollout type of deal. I think James Flanagan has the physique at 6'6", 251 to be a red zone threat this year, and potentially Ian Premer. So I think the secondary accounted for, let's see, Leonard Moore had a pick six, Jalen Stroman had a pick six, Luke Talich had that touchdown against Tate Johnson had a pick six. I mean, so we're talking roughly like 4 to 6, because I'm sure there's one that I'm forgetting. But I think the tight end room will account for more this season. I do. And then from Fish ND, buy one, sell one, hold one of these depth players in the wide receiver room in terms of on-field impact and Notre Dame success in 2026. First option is Cam Williams. Second option is Devin Fitzgerald. And the third option is Elijah Burris. Boy. Obviously, we know that fall camp is going to go a long way to determining what impact these guys are going to have. But I'm going to start out by selling Devin Fitzgerald, which is tough for me because he was my dark horse surprise breakout over spring. A lot of that just went into waiting for the genetics to kick in because I think Devin Fitzgerald will be an absolute dude at Notre Dame. I just don't think that's going to be in 2026. I need to see Fitz be able to do that more against not other freshmen. And that's not a slight to him because he's also a freshman. Marcus Freeman at the end of the Jersey scrimmage in his press conference talked about how because of his performance, Devin Fitzgerald he earned more of a right to be put in elevated scenarios, I think is what he called it. But he's a long way from going from torching a third stringer scout team cornerback to doing that against Dallas Golden or Christian Gray or Leonard Moore. And I hope to see some of that this offseason. That quickly could change if he starts doing what he did to the third team and the scout team, if he starts doing that to the second team and occasionally the first team. But for now, I'm going to sell Devin Fitzgerald. I'm going to hold Elijah Burris. I think his football IQ and route running ability is ahead of where Cam Williams is right now. But Elijah Burris, I think, just needs more strength, like playing strength, a little bit more time in the weight room to grow. I think he needs to get a little bit bigger. So I'm going to hold him. And then for Cam Williams, he is like the light bulb is like really starting to flicker and it just needs to stay on full time. And hopefully CJ Carr takes him under his wing. I think one of the players posted that they're all down in Florida working out right now. And CJ was down there as a lot of the wide receivers and Cam Williams was amongst them. So I'm hoping he continues to put in that work over the summer and then obviously into the offseason as well. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the wide receivers. I'd buy Cam Williams, hold Elijah Burris, and sell Devin Fitzgerald. But the cool part about this conversation here is, Fish, is fall camp is going to start to determine a lot of these things. And the benefit is I would be happy if it was a lot of these guys. If Cam Williams breaks out, cool, let's ride. If Devin Fitzgerald breaks out and earns snaps as a true freshman, I mean, when's the last time Notre Dame 2023 is probably the last time out of necessity Notre Dame has had a true freshman wide receiver come in and make a legitimate impact on the offense. It was 2023. So I'd be more than happy if it was Fitz. And then same thing with Elijah Burris. I think he's one of the best route runners on the team. He just has to get a little bit stronger first. So that's where I'm at with those three guys. Then another one from Fish ND. Buy, sell, hold. Rodney Dunham on defense and Jonas Walton on offense have the best chances to win freshman All-American honors. Okay, so if we are going out of the 2026 class, then I buy this. But freshman All-American honors also go to redshirt freshmen because it's like their first year playing in college, like seeing the field in college. So if we're talking about just how the award is given, I'm going to sell it because I think on offense, that's going to be Will Black. And then on defense, it could be Rodney Dunham to be a freshman, has the best chance because, I mean, going through it, Boubacar wouldn't be up for it. Bryce Young wouldn't be up for it. None of the defensive tackles would be up for it. I mean, the other factor on offense, too, if we're also including redshirt freshmen, Quincy Porter also has to be in that conversation. He's going to be a redshirt freshman this fall. But I would put Jonas Walton first out of the 2026 class, maybe Ian Premer, depending on how much playing time he might get. But on defense, I would go Rodney Dunham because I don't think anybody else in the secondary would be. In the linebacker room, it would be very, very tough. So I do sell this overall by how it's awarded and how it's given out, but it wouldn't surprise me if either of these guys did. All righty. Keep rolling here. Buy, sell, hold from Crying Belly. A true freshman will reach 500 yards in either rushing or receiving for Notre Dame. Boy. I'm going to sell it, but I don't do it with a whole lot of conviction. I could see Jonas Walton. Actually, no, I'm just going to flat out sell it. That's going to be very, very tough. There's a chance that they crack the running back rotation, but like I go back to some previous Notre Dame teams and the third guy in the rotation, because there's a world where, one of the true freshman running backs cracks the rotation. But I go back to 2022, when Chris Tyree was the third player in the rotation. He had 100 carries for 440 yards. Audric Estime led the team with 920. Logan Diggs had 820. Over a 15, potentially 16 game season, I could see that. Receiving, I don't think any of the true freshmen will get to 500 yards receiving. But so really the conversation comes down to if one of Javian Osborne or Jonas Walton gets 500 rushing yards. And I'm going to sell that. Would it surprise me if it happened? No, it wouldn't. But some of it too will come down to what Kedron Young's health is coming out of the fall camp. If he is full go and ready to contribute and is solidly in the running back rotation during Wisconsin week, and if he's able to stay healthy the rest of the season, I don't know if a true freshman is going to get 500 rushing yards. But if that's not the case, I could see one of probably Jonas Walton, maybe Javian Osborne, depending on how his hand is, get to 500. It'll be very interesting to see, but right now I'm going to sell it. Then CJ Carr will be named a first or second team All-American on one of the teams that use for consensus or unanimous. So one of the big five. To be a unanimous All-American, it comes from one of like the five major outlets. It's like the Football Writers Association of America. Actually, what are the five that decide unanimous All-Americans? It would also help if I was able to spell. So the five major outlets are the Associated Press, the American Football Coaches Association, the Football Writers Association of America, Sporting News, and then the Walter Camp Football Foundation. So those are the five that he's talking about. I buy it. Yeah, if CJ Carr has the type of season that we think that he's capable of having, and if Notre Dame has the season that we think that they are going to have as a team, yeah, I think CJ Carr will be named a first or second team All-American. But here's the cool thing, and Brian and I were talking about this the other day. We think this is going to be a really, really, really fun year for quarterbacks. I think we're actually going to do a show later on this summer talking about how like this is a big year for year two starters at like their current schools. CJ Carr's going into year two, Julian Sain's going into year two, Dante Moore's going into year two, Arch Manning is going into year two at where he's starting. Trinidad Chambliss is going into year two. I know a lot of people are really, really high on him. So there's a lot of quarterbacks that are across the country going into year two as starters. A couple seasons ago, we talked about how we're getting ready to there was almost like a passing of the torch in college football with younger guys stepping up. And I think now this year is going to be the culmination of a lot of that. So that's where I'm at. So yeah, I buy that he will be a first or second team All-American on one of the five, but it's going to be steep competition. So this year, if CJ Carr is named a first or second team All-American, it was earned, because I don't see all of those quarterbacks that I just listed off having a step back year, and CJ's just the only one that had a good season. If he is a first or second team All-American this year, it's definitely earned, without a doubt. Then another one from Crying Belly. 4 of Notre Dame's opponents will finish the regular season ranked. I think I buy that one as well. Let me just make sure. Yeah, Navy, Miami, BYU, and SMU. I think they all finish it ranked. Navy finished ranked last year. BYU has finished in like the top 17 the last 2 years. Miami's finished ranked the last 2 years. And I believe SMU, I don't think finished ranked last year, but I think they will finish ranked this year, especially like with what we talked about before. If they go into the Notre Dame game ranked at 9-1, I don't think a loss to Notre Dame will then just drop them completely out of the rankings. And they're going to have opportunities to bolster their resume. But the two that I have questions about are SMU and Navy. Navy, it's just, what are we going to see in the post Blake Horvath era? Because Alex Teska is gone, Eli Heidenreich is gone, Blake Horvath is gone. But like we've seen, Braxton Woodson is a more than capable quarterback in that offense. So Navy would be one that I would be curious to see what happens. Swanton Bomb asked, what if Navy isn't ranked? Who's the next closest one? Gosh, that one gets a little bit more tough, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, because you would need a team to take a pretty sizable jump. It's not going to be Boston College. It's not going to be Rice. I don't think it's going to be Purdue. And then out of all the other ones, you basically need them to go from not bowl eligible to ranked. Like Syracuse potentially with what Steve Angeli could do with that offense. But like I've said before, I'm excited to see what Steve does in 2026. But his supporting cast is not going to look like what it looked like last year with Darryl Gill and Justice Ross Simmons and Jonte Cook. And so that'll look a little bit different. But I would say the next in contention would be some combination of Wisconsin or Syracuse. Maybe Michigan State, if just they really lean into the like being overlooked part with Pat Fitzgerald and they just kind of jump up and surprise some teams. But there's a pretty sizable gap in between the four teams that I'm confident I think will be ranked by the end of the season and who's next in line. But that's a good question. I would say right now it's a tie between Wisconsin and Syracuse and just seeing who can make the most of their opportunities this year with their offense. That's where I'm at with those. And then let's see here. Okay, there we go. So Fish went through and amended kind of his like freshman All-American. Will Black on offense and Rodney Dunham on defense. That I would buy. That I think Will Black could be a freshman All-American, and I think Rodney Dunham could be a freshman All-American on defense. So that one I'm with. So apologies, I didn't see that amendment first. All righty. So from Father J-Pop, according to 247's class calculator, if Brian's recruiting class prediction comes to fruition, and self-editing to keep board content as board content, this would be, in fact, the fifth best recruiting class from any team in the last 7 years. Only 2021 Alabama and Ohio State, 22 Texas A&M, and 23 Alabama rank ahead. So buy, sell, hold Notre Dame's potential class against 23 Alabama, 22 Texas A&M, 2021 Alabama, and 2021 Ohio State. Father J-Pop, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think this is a fantastic question. I just don't know recruiting as much as what Brian does. So bear with me here, and I'll give this my best shot. The 2023 Alabama class. I'm looking it up right now because I can't pull that information off the top of my head. One of the players, actually the top-rated player in that class, according to 247 Sports, is Keon Keeley, who's now back at Notre Dame. But they have other players. Caleb Proctor, Caleb Downs was in that class. Yanze Pierre is in that class. He's still on the team. Justice Haynes was in that class. This class was absolutely loaded. Des Ricks, a corner, was in that class. Quay Russaw was in that class. You got Malik Benson. Richard Young at running back was in that class. Eli Holstein at quarterback was actually in that class, and he's now battling for the starting job at Virginia with Bo Prabula, which it's crazy to see some of these former recruiting classes and how some of them end up. Because I think the difficult part about this one, Father J-Pop, is how it all stays together. Like, I'm somebody that evaluates like recruiting classes for their impact for the current schools that they're on. Like, obviously we pay attention a lot to the recruiting rankings and we pay attention to who has a higher ranked class for here. But like for Alabama's 2023 class, that's so tough because Keon Keeley's back at Notre Dame. Caleb Downs was a one and done in Tuscaloosa. Justin Haynes had his best season, not at Alabama. Des Ricks transferred. Quay Russaw is still there, but James Smith is gone. Eli Holstein is gone. So I think that's what makes that so tough. Ty Lockwood, he was a tight end. Dylan Lonergan was a part of that class. He's also gone. So I think that's what makes it so tough. So I would probably defer back to Brian on this one. And for any of these questions, if my answer, because some of these I just won't be able to, folks, and that's my apologies there. But for some of these, keep these fresh in your cycle because buy, sell, hold is now like back permanently. Took a couple week break from it. Next Monday, I believe. Actually, next Monday is Memorial Day. But buy, sell, hold will still be a reoccurring thing throughout the offseason. So keep these pinned. But as of right now, I would take Notre Dame's potential 2027 recruiting class over 23 Alabama. I can confidently say I'm taking it over 22 Texas A&M just because their recruiting class was bolstered a lot by like that big defensive line class that they brought in, and it was like all defensive ends. And so what I love that Notre Dame's been doing on the recruiting trail is they've been filling the need of what they've been filling current needs on their roster. They're not star chasing. And I think that's what Texas A&M did. 21 Bama, 21 Ohio State. Actually, if I remember correctly, that 2021 Ohio State class was nuts. Because I think that was one of the classes. Okay, so in 2021, they brought in Quinn Ewers, who transferred, but that was the class with JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Emeka Egbuka, Travion Henderson, Kyle McCord was in that class. Tyleek Williams was in that class. Marvin Harrison Jr. was in that. Denzel Burke. I mean, that was a national championship winning class. The 2021 class was the class that, kind of banded together in the 2023 offseason and said, hey, no, let's stick together, run it back. I need to see a little bit from Notre Dame. Now, the 2021 Ohio State class could be what that 2023 recruiting class is for Notre Dame. That class with Adon Schuler and Drake Bowen and Jordan Faison and Jaden Greathouse and players like that. So I think the 23 Notre Dame class could be what the 21 Ohio State class was to the Buckeyes. But Father J-Pop, that's the best I can do with that question, man. But no, it's definitely a good one for sure. Keep that pinned, and I know Brian will circle back to it for sure. And then from Eye on the Ball. Well, this is I believe this is a question about, let me see here. We'll go to this one. Buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame Chicago recruiting strategy needs a serious relook or reassessment. I don't necessarily think that that's the case. I mean, when you get a player like David Folarunsho, I don't really know if that's causeway to say that Notre Dame needs to reevaluate or reassess what they're doing in Chicago. Now, I agree with you that is going to be over the next couple seasons. That is a place that Notre Dame absolutely has to win. Notre Dame has to be able to win in their backyard. But I know Brian has put up intel pieces on the message board about, other players like Quentin Burrell. There's still this ongoing battle with Braden Parks. So I don't know if it's necessarily just a complete reassessment. I do think they need to stack up more wins there, but it's not like around Chicagoland area they've been striking out. Like I said, David Folarunsho was absolutely a huge pickup. There's other impactful players that some of them just kind of need to pan out. But last year and last year's recruiting class out of like the Chicago and Chicagoland area, they were also able to bring in, give me just a second. There's one guy and his name is escaping me. And I was talking to him with Brian about it earlier. I know one of them is Cam Williams. He's been a hot topic of conversation. So there's players that Notre Dame needs to have pan out a little bit, but I don't know if I'm ready to say that they need to reassess like how they're attacking Chicago. I just think that they need to get more wins there personally. But I'm with you though. Chicago is going to be an absolutely huge area for recruiting for Notre Dame, and they got to be able to find wins there. That I am with you completely. 13 reasons why. Buy, sell, hold. The risk reward for a top 25 program scheduling a top 3 program favors the reward. I think it favors the risk and reward for like a team outside of the top 25 or on the lower end of the top 25. Like, so for example, if Notre Dame were to schedule, okay, like let's talk about the Pitt game from last year. I believe Pitt was the 22nd ranked team in the country last year when Notre Dame played them. Notre Dame wasn't ranked in the top 3, but I would argue they were a top 3 program in college football last year. So I think the reason why I bring up the Notre Dame Pitt example is when Notre Dame beat Pitt, I would argue that they didn't get enough credit for beating Pitt. And I think we saw that. That didn't get weighed to have everybody talked about who did you beat in November? Who did you beat in November? Who did you beat in November? It's like, well, they beat a ranked Pitt team on the road. Unfortunately, their time spent as a ranked team was very, very, very brief because they made it into the top 25. Notre Dame beat them. They dropped out the next week because Notre Dame beat them like 37-9. And so But if Pitt were to beat Notre Dame, all of the reward would go to Pitt. Notre Dame received very little reward for beating Pitt, but if Pitt beat Notre Dame, they would get all of the reward. So I think it depends on what lens you look at it. If you're the higher ranked team, I think it's more risky. Now that doesn't mean shy away from beating or from playing or scheduling top 25 programs. But I think if you are a top 25 team and you're somewhere 20 or lower, then I think all of the risk falls on the top ranked teams. That's just how I view it. But that doesn't mean don't schedule or play them. Notre Dame is also a different beast because, as we all know, if Notre Dame's schedule doesn't go Ohio State on the road, Alabama on the road, Texas at home, Georgia at home, and so on and so forth, Notre Dame's schedule won't carry much weight anyways, but you guys get my point. And then assuming the first one is a buy, sell, hold, this is why Notre Dame won't have any problem scheduling top programs in the future. The revenue component is a win-win for the other team. That I agree with. That I buy. Like we've seen, Notre Dame is a revenue driver in multiple different channels. I talked earlier about Rivals releasing their, top commitments from, basically the past week and most viewerships. And it was Olu Olubabola and David Fuller-Runcho. Both of those players committed to Notre Dame. They were two of the top three. Brian has listed off countless times how many, Notre Dame ACC matchups and their viewership compared to what, some of the Miami televised games were, or what some of the Clemson or Virginia or any of those teams were. Notre Dame draws eyes, and that's something that people don't appreciate and something that people don't like to admit when it comes to fruition. So I'm with you. I do buy that. The revenue component is a win-win for both teams. That I definitely agree with you there. We're still rolling here on the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. And it's just me as of right now. They're experiencing some pretty bad weather up north, and I know Brian's power has been out for quite some time. That's why it's a little bit different layout on the screen. I'm kind of just taking these from the premium message board site at boards.irishbreakdown.com because I myself am experiencing some technical difficulties. Not saying that can't be a user error, but it's just me right now. Hopefully Brian's able to rejoin us here towards the end of the show or sometime here soon. And hopefully just in general, his power's able to come back on for him. And now I think some of the bad weather is also starting to trickle down my way because it got very, very dark outside of my window here. And so my lights also just flashed. So here's hoping that we're able to keep rolling here. Just a quick check. My lights just flashed. Do you guys still have me here? I think so, because my chat is still updating. So, but appreciate the patience, everybody. But we are now, my lights keep flickering. So stay tuned here, folks, because mine absolutely could be going out here soon too. But we are still rolling here. Appreciate everybody. We got one from Aiden Benami. Buy, sell, hold. At the time, and it may still be now, the Ohio State at Notre Dame game in 2023 was the highest secondary market ticket ever. Convicts at Notre Dame, Miami at Notre Dame this year will surpass that number. I definitely think that is a strong, very strong possibility. Definitely think that's a very strong possibility. Yeah, I think that's a definite possibility. The amount of eyes that are going to be on that game this year are going to be absolutely insane. And for all of the narratives, I mean, for what they had going on last year, obviously the biggest draw is, Miami's the one that kept Notre Dame out of the playoffs. Then you also have to think the game of the century in 1988 also took place at Notre Dame. And so that's going to be a huge factor as well. I was at the 23 Notre Dame Ohio State game. That campus all day was rocking. And I wish I could be up at the Notre Dame Miami game this year. I'll have roughly a month and a half old at that time. Maybe I can convince the wife to let me take him up there, but we'll see. But yes, I do buy this, Iden. I think that this year's game might surpass that because I think there's a chance it's going to be a top 5 matchup. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if it was a top 5 matchup because I don't believe the Notre Dame Ohio State game in 2023 was a top 5 matchup. It was a top 10 matchup, but I think it was like 6 versus 9, if I'm remembering correctly. At the time, yep. Okay. At the time, Ohio State was ranked 6th in the country. Notre Dame was ranked 9th in the country. So that was just a top 10 matchup. If Notre Dame versus Miami, yeah, if Notre Dame versus Miami is a top 5 matchup, I think it surpasses that. So I'm going to buy that as well because that game could be absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. And then buy, sell, hold, assuming all stays the same and there's no injury, Knapp leaves for the NFL. I think I'm actually going to sell this one. I am very, very excited to see what Anthony Knapp does along the interior for Notre Dame. But let's also not forget that this will be his first year starting at left guard. I'm not one of those that thinks, and I know Brian isn't either, we're not under the assumption that the jump from left tackle to left guard is going to just be this monumental switch. But I also don't think that it's not nothing. So I think he will have a very good season this year. And I've said before, I think if he plays to his ceiling this year, he could be an All-American at left guard. But I could see Anthony Knapp being a 4-year player. There could be some questions in his evaluation around just his overall size that he might want to come back and prove for another year. But barring no injury, I'm going to sell this. I could see Anthony Knapp taking on the full load of leadership in that room. He could be a captain this year. If he comes back in 2027, I absolutely could see him being a captain next year. So yeah, those are definitely things that I would be keeping my eye out for. But as of right now, I would say that Anthony Knapp doesn't leave for the NFL. So I'll sell that one. Buy, sell, hold again from Iden. Julius Jones Jr. has the highest upside as a recent close to signing wide receiver commit. If not, is it Caden Finley? As far as overall upside, I still go back to the 2024 recruiting class of Cam Williams. I mean, think about this, guys. We're talking about a player who, through all of their portal acquisitions, through getting Malachi Fields, through getting Will Pauling, who was on the Feldman's freak list, and we watched what he did in the pro day, and he ran a 4.37 40, had like an over 40-inch vertical, through Jaden Greathouse's breakout in the Penn State and the national championship game, through Jordan Faison leading the team in receptions last year. We've still said that Cam Williams is the most physically gifted wide receiver in that room. So if we're talking about the highest upside, I still go with Cam Williams. Because even with Caden Finley in the room, I think Cam Williams still has the highest upside out of any of the receivers. Now, like I said earlier, we are closely approaching that time where I want to stop talking about upside and potential and just start talking about production with Cam Williams. But that's probably where I would go. So I would sell Caden Finley, but it is close. Caden Finley was an absolutely huge recruitment last year. He was one of Brian's highest rated offensive players in the class. But Cam Williams could be that guy at Notre Dame. He could be that next big receiver. He just has to continue taking the steps to develop that way. So that's where I'm at with him. And then buy, sell, hold. I'm not the only one who rewatches the Irish Access Georgia and Penn State playoff games about once a month. Guilty, LOL, and gets choked up every single time. So I won't lie. I am also in that group. I pay attention to the viewerships on those videos every single time I tune it on. And yeah, I'm definitely a part of that, of their viewership growing on those videos. But yes, I buy this. I go through and I rewatch those all the time. The Georgia Sugar Bowl and the Penn State Orange Bowl are two games that I routinely watch and go through and rewatch. Somebody on the thread or on the message board, I want to say a couple of weeks ago, posted a thread about like their most the games they like to go through and rewatch the most. So it was fun to put in my own list and go through and revisit some of the better games. That's for sure. But yes, I buy that as well. Then buy, sell, hold. It's a shame and sickening and sums up the world in 2026 that a Game 7 is not on cable TV and is on Prime. I have Prime and I almost wanted to rebel on principle. I don't blame you, man. I mean, look, I'm such a weird hybrid because it's like I'm in between the ages of I am accepting of certain new things in sports, but there are some things that I'm very traditional with. And I miss the days when I could just watch all of my NFL games on Fox or CBS and watch the night game on NBC and then watch Monday Night Football on ESPN. I don't like that I now need Netflix for the Christmas games. And I need Prime for the Thursday night games. And I don't love that, because you need to get an individual streaming service for every single thing you want to watch. Now, I'm waiting for a time where an NBC Sunday night game is going to be exclusively on Peacock. That wouldn't surprise me if that was around the corner sometime soon. So I'm really hoping I'm wrong about that. I really am, but I'm with you. I buy that too, because it gets very, very, very annoying. Frustrates me because every single year I go and I buy NFL Sunday ticket. To me, it's one of those things that, like, once you buy it, it's really hard to not buy it again the next season. It's how they get you. But then I go and buy Sunday ticket, and then half of the games every week are either on Prime or, around holiday season, you get all the Thanksgiving specials on Netflix and all that. So it gets very, very annoying. I'm with you. I'm with you there completely, Iden. From Fat Fish, buy, sell, hold. When Notre Dame goes undefeated to claim the national championship this season, the excuses will be, and I'm assuming this is a buy one, sell one, hold one. So option 1, they had an easy path and they play cupcakes. 2, they had so much money, blah, blah, blah. And 3, they needed a Michigan man to get the job done at quarterback. Well, that's actually pretty funny, Fat Fish. In all seriousness, I'm going to buy the first one. It's the easy path. What will happen if Notre Dame wins the national championship this season? The first thing that they talk about are the teams that they didn't have to play in the playoffs. Let's just say that on a way to, let's play this out and Notre Dame doesn't get a bye. And they have to play 4 postseason games. And they play, let's say they play Georgia at home in the first round. They play Ohio State in the quarterfinals. They play, actually, let me switch that up. Let's say they play Ohio State at home. They play Georgia in the quarterfinals. Then they play like Oklahoma in the semifinals and then beat Oregon in the national title game. For all of us Notre Dame fans, like, dude, you just beat 4 premier programs. And likely you beat the Big Ten champs and the SEC champs. But the resounding conversation will be, yeah, but you didn't have to play Texas. Arch Manning could have beat that team. You'll hear a lot of that. So I'm going to buy they had an easy path and then they play cupcakes, because their regular season schedule, barring like Wisconsin making a bigger jump, SMU winning the ACC, Miami taking a trip back to the playoffs and all that stuff, Notre Dame's regular season schedule just won't get as much respect as it deserves. I've said this once and I'll say it again. It's not a gauntlet. I'm not claiming that it's a gauntlet, but it is not this cupcake walk in the park that some people think that it is either. Actually, I'll probably buy, hold, sell in that order. I buy that they had an easy path. I hold that they have so much money, blah, 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 because that's when you enter the, they bought their roster and look at how much money they spent on it and yada, yada, yada. And insured by big, I agree with you. Having an easy path definitely plays into it for sure. Agreed completely. I'm just thinking that no matter who Notre Dame plays, it's always going to be who they didn't have to play. I think that's always just going to be the counter for it. And then I'm selling the third one because I think the only people that will say that will be Michigan, who will be watching the playoffs from the couch this year. I mean, it's really easy to talk all that stuff about having a Michigan man at quarterback when your team wasn't in the playoffs. But I won't harp on him too much because Michigan won a national title in 2023. That's just kind of where we're at with that. Another one from Fat Fish. Buy, sell, hold. If Notre Dame joined a conference tomorrow, their competitive trajectory would, A, skyrocket, better recruiting resources and playoff access. 2, stay roughly the same, and they'd trade independence perks for conference perks and net neutral. Or C, decline. They'd lose uniqueness and become, quote, just another program and face tougher schedules. So I sell C. I don't think there's a world where even if Notre Dame joins a conference that they would decline. I understand like the fear of like you just becoming another one of the pack, but Notre Dame is still a leading brand, whether they're in a conference or not. Ohio State and Texas are still 2 of the biggest brands in college football, and they're in a conference. So I don't think that they would lose the uniqueness, that they would not become just another program. So that one I sell. To To the national media, I think their perception would skyrocket. And again, it depends on which conference they join. Let's be real about something here, folks. It would skyrocket if they joined the Big Ten or the SEC. If Notre Dame joined the Big 12 or joined the ACC, they would not get respect for a conference schedule. And that's just the truth of it. Notre Dame joins the ACC, and we try to say, okay, well, now they're playing a full conference schedule. The counter to the masses would be, yeah, you joined the ACC, the worst of the Power Four conferences. It is what it is. But I'd probably buy skyrocket. Actually, I'm going to buy, stay roughly the same, hold skyrocket, and then sell decline. I just don't see a world where if Notre Dame joins a conference, they decline and become less of a program than what they were in 2025, playing out the scenario if they joined a conference in 26. I just don't see that. I don't. I would be interested, though, to see what FanDuel's odds would be for what Notre Dame's odds would be to win whatever conference that they joined. Right now, they have, as far as conference winners go, the ACC, Miami is the runaway favorite to win that conference. And then tied for second is Louisville and SMU at plus 750. In the Big Ten, it's a much closer race. And it's the top three teams that we talked about. Ohio State is the favorite to win that conference. Indiana is second at plus 260. And Oregon is right behind them at plus 280. After that, it's a massive drop-off. Michigan's at plus 1,300. USC's at plus 1,400. And then Penn State's at plus 2,700. Out of the Big 12, Texas Tech, despite losing their starting quarterback, most likely, they are still the favorites to win that conference at plus 110. And then up next is BYU at plus 550. And then out of the SEC, Texas and Georgia are actually, Texas is the lone favorite to win that conference at plus 300. Georgia's second at plus 330, which I find interesting because Georgia's had Texas's number the last couple times that they've played. So I thought that was fascinating. So another one here from Fat Fish. Buy, sell, hold. In 10 years, Notre Dame football will be remembered as A, a program that adapted, evolved, and returned to championship contention. B, a proud program that stayed relevant but never quite broke through in the playoff era. And C, a cautionary tale of tradition clashing with modern college football realities. Again, I'll work back to front here. I'm going to sell C because I think that in the next 10 years, we're still going to talk about like what Notre Dame did in 2024 and what could have potentially happened in 2025. How do I know that? Because we as a fan base still talk about what could have happened in 1993 and the adjustments that could have been made in 2015. And so I sell that. I don't think that Notre Dame will become a cautionary tale, especially while Marcus Freeman's at the helm of this program. I'm buying a program that adapted, evolved, and returned to championship contention. Because I think they aren't, because you didn't say we'll win a championship or win multiple championships over the course of this next 10 years. Return to championship contention? Yeah, they've already returned to championship contention. And I think that Notre Dame has done a beautiful job adapting and evolving to the current landscape of college football. I really do. I mean, there's no world where I view and look at Notre Dame. What up, Mr. Sean Davis?
What's good, TT? How you feeling, man?
I'm great, man. I haven't been used to talking for an hour and 50 minutes straight, so the throat's getting a little bit sore. But
I got you.
You know, B's powers out a little bit, and always a good way to start out the way. I get to do kind of a show with Brian today and a show with Sean Davis today. How you doing, man?
Great. How are you going to introduce me? And now the pinch hitter.
And now we got that 2 quarterback system rolling in, man. That's how we're splitting it up, man. But I got the message board pulled up here because there's something on my end where I just can't get these cards pulled up for whatever reason. So we're doing it a little bit very old school. So okay. I'll let you answer this one here, Sean. It's from Fat Fish. Buy, sell, hold. In 10 years, Notre Dame football will be remembered as, it's buy one, sell one, hold one. A program that adapted, evolved, and returned to championship contention. B, a proud program that stayed relevant but never quite broke through in the playoff era. Or C, a cautionary tale of tradition clashing and modern college football realities.
Oh, those are 3 really good options. Fat Fish. I'm going to sell B. I'm going to hold on C and buy A. Yeah. I'm definitely going to sell B, hold on C, and buy A.
I'm with that. That's what I was
Yeah.
talking about. It's like I think Notre Dame has already returned to championship contention.
Yeah, because they didn't say win a national championship. They did say return to championship contention. So it's fair to say that they're already there. But C is really intriguing, and I can see how I see because of the landscape constantly changing. And I think the way the fan base reacted to Notre Dame supporting the expansion publicly can also kind of yield people, cause people, shall I say, to determine C to be something they would buy.
Agreed.
Those 3 really good options, man. That was a good one for me to come in on. That's the first one.
Dude, they've been absolutely bringing it today. We haven't done buy, sell, hold in a couple weeks, and you can tell because we've had some really, really good submissions today. There's actually one. You have more of a recruiting prowess than what I have. Are you cool if we backtrack for a second? Because there was a good recruiting question in here that I wasn't just able to answer, and I don't want it to go not talked about. So it's from Father J-Pop. And it says, according to 247's class calculator, if Brian's recruiting class prediction comes to fruition, this would be, in fact, the 5th best recruiting class from any team in the last 7 years. Only 21 Alabama and Ohio State, 22 Texas A&M, and 23 Alabama rank ahead. So buy, sell, hold Notre Dame's potential classes against those teams: 23 Bama, 22 A&M, 21 Alabama, and then 21 Ohio State.
I'm trying to pull it up now so I can take a gander at it here. You know what? This 21 class was really good for Alabama. I think it was like the last great class that they had, though. So it's very interesting. I would probably put them up against the 22 Texas A&M because that was star heavy, but it was poorly constructed. It was star heavy, but poorly constructed. And it ended up being a disaster for Jimbo Fisher.
Yep.
So, yeah, 22 at Texas A&M, I'm definitely selling that. I'll hold on. Wait a minute. I'm buying. I think I'm supposed to buy. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. The ones that they stack up.
Yeah. I buy 2022 Texas A&M. I will hold on 23 Alabama and sell 21 Alabama.
No, I like that. No, I think that's fair. Like what I talked about was,
you know what? Let me flip that. I'm going to sell 21 Alabama and I'll hold on 21 Ohio State. Yeah.
No, I get that. What I had a lot of struggle with is like I still look at recruiting classes for like what they turned into, not what it was at the time. And that was really hard for me to separate because like I looked at the Alabama 23 recruiting class and it's like, okay, you got Keon Keeley, who's now back at Notre Dame and he was like their highest ranked recruit in the 2023 class on 247. Yeah, Caleb Downs was in that class. He was a one and done in Tuscaloosa. Justice Haynes transferred. Des Ricks transferred. James Smith is now transferred. Richard Young never did what we thought he was going to do at Alabama. Eli Holstein is now on his 3rd school. So, like, that's what was so tough when I was trying to answer that. But,
yeah.
No, man, I appreciate the window in. That definitely helps. All righty. Let's get back down here. From Tom Lee 75. Buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame didn't want to get into a bidding war with Leighton Von Brandt, and Auburn got him. Never mind, get on the boards to get the intel.
Buy, sell, hold. Players go to a school mostly on NIL packages, are making a poor choice for their future. Is Simeon or done on the O-line for 2027? And without Simeon or LVB, can be a champion. I will hold.
Oh, sorry, John. These are all separate buy, sell, hold.
Separate. Okay. So, yeah, I see. My bad.
Yeah. So no, you're all good, man. We'll skip the Leighton Von Brandt one because the intel for that is up on the message boards. But The next one, buy, sell, hold. Players that go to a school mostly on NIL packages are making a poor choice for their future.
No, I'll sell that. I'll sell that because, man, it's easy for fans to take a step back and they don't have a bird's eye view of chances and opportunities. I've said this before. You know, I warn fans that every kid that goes to a private school, that doesn't necessarily make them a Notre Dame kid. You don't know their background, you don't know their family situation, and just because they come from a similar structure, don't just feel like they should automatically choose Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is the best option for them. You know, we have to take a step back because we don't have the bird's eye view of everything that's going on. Are there people that make decisions strictly based upon NIL? Probably so. Probably so. But ultimately, like everybody else, you make tough decisions and then you have to stand on by principle that decision and make the best of it. You know, so ultimately it's up to that young man or that young woman, whatever decision they make, to go ahead and make some hay with it. And hopefully, you know, they can squeeze all of the juice out of that decision that they can moving forward. I don't think anybody, even though they make decisions based upon money, I still think they make it saying, man, I got to get to the NFL. And that offends people because, Trev, you know, there are kids that you play football with or against that are really balanced individuals, and do it well on the field and off the field. And then there are some guys that have tunnel vision that do. Man, I'm about to get my family out of this situation. I'm trying to get to the bag as soon as I can. I'm the male representative in this house. Like, yo, that's a reality, and I hate the fact that that's a reality for teenagers having to deal with things like that. Not to say the other teenagers that don't play sports don't go through that and haven't overcome it, but still, even in that sense, I wouldn't want somebody to have to deal with that. Buy, sell, hold is Simeon or done. I will hold on that because I do think there's flippability in the O-line class in 2027. I think we already saw that with Hill joining the class last week. So I'll hold on that. Heck, I just hope we just get Simeon and can be done. Like, and then
Man.
without Simeon or LVB, the class can be a championship level group. I probably would sell on that championship level. Yeah. You know what? No, I'm gonna hold on that. Because, listening, I have not really jumped into the film for Hill. I've talked to several people that keep telling me that he has upside with his frame and his size. I do wonder, and it gives me caution when I look at his offers before he was flipped from UCLA. But he could be a gem, right? He could end up being Anthony Knapp, who was a gem in that class as a 3-star. So if he can get to that level and be a 4-year starter, or 3 to 4 year starter, then what he's going to be surrounded by, I would have to say, yeah, that's a championship level group. So yeah, I'll sell, hold, and hold, Trev.
Yeah, I mean, for the NIL packages, I love your explanation. I will say I'm going to hold this one, and here's why. I would be remiss if I also didn't mention that there are some players that just want to go bag chase and make a poor choice for their future. There is some of that, and that's the unfortunate stuff. But look, like anything, you're going to have your bad eggs in something. You know what I mean, Sean? You're always going to have those that kind of ruin it. But look, I mean, for the situation that I grew up in, if I got offered an NIL package, yeah, I would be swayed to go to the person who would pay me the most for the ability to support my family and do all those things. So you just can't lump it all into, if you go mostly for NIL packages, you're just making a bad choice for your future. You can't lump everybody into that same conversation. Are there some people that make those choices solely based on NIL? Yeah. That are in situations where they don't have to be that way? Yes, there are. But I don't know if I'd be willing to say that that is the majority. I think the common trend is people like the stigma is that people think that that's the majority. But I think you could argue that that's not. And that's where I am with that one. I agree with what you said about the offensive line. And then without Simeon or Leighton Von Brand in the 27 class, can it be a championship level group? I'm going to sell it solely because and I know this might sound a little bit cheeky, but you need 5 offensive linemen and there's 4 in the class. I mean, but here's the bright side in all seriousness. Very rarely does Notre Dame have a starting 5 offensive line where all 5 kids are from the same exact class. I mean, look at this year. You got Ashton Craig, who was in like the 2021 or 2022 recruiting class. I think 22 recruiting class. Anthony Knapp was in the 24 recruiting class. Gerby Lambert was in the 24 recruiting class. Will Black was in the 25 recruiting class. So are there championship caliber pieces in this offensive line class? Absolutely. Olu Olubabola is a championship caliber offensive lineman. They just don't need him to be that on day one. James Halter could be an absolute force at multiple positions across the offensive line. And then you get 2 players that need a little bit of development in Richie Flanagan, who's, was also being recruited as a defensive tackle at places, and Jackson Hill, who has the frame to be a championship caliber offensive lineman. He's just going to need some time to grow in a collegiate system. So that's where I'm at, Sean. I get you completely. We got some in here from Ball Peen Shillelagh. Buy, sell, hold. Here's the first one. Buy, sell, hold with Bob Chesney at the helm. UCLA takes over the position of the top team in California from Southern Cal within the next 3 years.
I sell that. I think it can be done, but I think it's going to take more than 3 years. It won't happen this year. And honestly, the recruiting classes that SC has put together the last 2 years makes it hard for me to believe that it's going to happen the second year. So maybe there's an opportunity depending upon what UCLA, which they have to utilize the transfer portal. If they can make some moves in the portal over the next 2 years to kind of bridge the gap, it will be possible. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and sell it. And I really think Bob Chesney is a really good coach. I really do. I just look at some of the kids out of California that they're adding to the class, the 27 class, and I think, he's doing a good job of laying the foundation and getting kids in Cali to buy in so he can challenge USC for some of the top kids in another 2 years or so. So, and they got to spend. They have to spend. USC got commitments from people to be able to go out and spend. I don't know if UCLA, which they have plenty of money at the school, but I don't know if they're willing or they have the people in line that are waiting to go ahead and invest to get it done.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm going to sell it. But one thing that I will say, Sean, that's interesting about California is, and I think I'm actually going to write something on this. California as a football state could, I'm not willing to necessarily bet on it, but could be on the come up as a football state potentially. What UCLA or what USC is doing on the recruiting trail, UCLA and Bob Chesney and what they're doing, I think that's a really interesting conversation. Tavita Pritchard taking over at Stanford and Andrew Luck is their general manager. Excuse me. Do I think that Stanford can return to what they were under David Shaw and Jim Harbaugh? I don't know about that. But under Tavita Pritchard, they just landed a 4-star quarterback. Sion Cahoe, quarterback from Washington, he was the number 2 player in the state. He's a 4-star kid. If Stanford can continue to find players like that, build them up. And I mean, Cal started the season last year 4 or 5-0 or something crazy after losing all of their scholarship running backs. So be very interested to see what happens out there. Then next one in here from Ball Peen Shillelagh. If the USC rivalry is revived, it takes on the same perception as a Stanford or Navy rivalry in terms of competitiveness.
Are we basing it upon a report that's talking about 2029 or 30? If we're doing that, then it's difficult. We don't even know if the coaches will still be at the helm for both universities. So, I mean, I would hold on that. If we're talking about if they started back this year, like they just added USC to the schedule, like literally tomorrow, I don't think it would ever have the same perception as Stanford or Navy. Like, come on, let's be real. The brands are the brands in college football. That's I can't stand USC despite my money going there for 4 years, but
No, I'm with
I
you,
just
man.
can't do that.
No, I'm selling that one as well. Look, I don't know if there's a player on earth that dislikes USC more than I dislike USC. Well, I can't stand USC. But I'm also not going to sit there and paint this picture that like every single time Notre Dame plays them, they beat the brakes out of them. Because like recently, that's what Stanford has been for Notre Dame. It's kind of what Navy has been for Notre Dame. Even in years where USC historically hasn't been that good, it's still been competitive games. I think back to 2012 when Notre Dame had to go out to Los Angeles and beat a backup quarterback. I think they had Max Whittick who started for them in that game, and Notre Dame needed to win to basically lock up their spot and make it to the national championship game. The final score was 22-13. Notre Dame had to have like a fourth down goal line stand to really put it away. I think of 2018 when Notre Dame played them. I mean, it was 24-17, one touchdown game for Notre Dame to seal their bid in the college football playoffs. That rivalry's been competitive. I mean, we can sit here and play this game of like Notre Dame should have beat USC by more. Notre Dame played a really bad game and still beat them by 10. And while all of those things are true, if Notre Dame plays a bad game against Stanford, it looks like what it did this past season where they win 49-20. Notre Dame didn't play a great game at home against USC and they won by 10. So I don't want to paint this picture that it's going to turn into that from a competitive standpoint. So I'm going to sell that one as well. And then last one from Bald Peen Shillelagh. If Florida State fires Mike Norvell, they would at least consider hiring Brian Kelly.
You know what? I don't think so. I think they got a front row seat to the fit that Brian Kelly or the lack of being a fit in the South. I think they see that. I think everybody in the South saw what it would be like to have Brian Kelly leading your program. And shout out to Verge Alsbury for piling on and making it even worse. Wait, no, I'll sell that.
Yeah, I'm going to sell that one as well, and I'm also going to hope sell it. Like Florida State is a storied program, and I don't want to see Brian Kelly at the helm of another program where players are going to go and get potentially underdeveloped, and Florida State would then be in a situation. It would look different because I don't think Brian Kelly would ever go 2-10 at Florida State. Believe me, I'm no Brian Kelly sympathizer, and I know he went 4-8 at Notre Dame in a really bad year. That still wasn't 2-10. 2-10 at a place like Florida State is crazy. So no, but they would still be in a position where they would need to win sometimes despite their head coach. And that's not a place where you want to be at Florida State. It just isn't. Mr. Sean Davis, we are getting into the final part here of the Irish Breakdown podcast brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. And we got the buy-sell hold going on today. Been a crazy one, man. Brian's had some weather problems up north. I was running solo for a little bit. You hopped in, and now we're off and rolling. And getting us kicked off here in the final segment here, buy, sell, hold, is John A1 with a really interesting question. Love to get your thoughts on it here, Sean. Buy, sell, hold. If Devin Houston was moved to the offensive line to begin his Notre Dame career, he'd be a projected starter on the interior of the offensive line in 2026.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I remember coming out, even when they said he was making the switch, it wasn't like eyebrows raised. It was kind of like, oh, he has the body type. He has the athleticism, I think. And I think it was a log jam at defensive line at that point that he saw. And then the development of a Notre Dame offensive lineman is pretty much etched in stone. So, yeah, I think he would be in the running. I'm I don't know if he would be in the running to be a starter. I just looked at that. No, not to be a starter. Definitely to be in the second group, yes. But to be a starter on the O-line in 2026, he'll be. I mean, he would be in better position to compete. I'll say that he definitely would be in a much better position to compete. And I know people love some of the things they saw in the blue and gold game and some things that have been reported. He definitely has made up. He's advanced a lot quickly and become better than probably most people thought when he made the change. Because when you make that type of change, it's easy to become an afterthought in the program. But he's done a pretty good job of making himself a name for years to come. I think over the next 2 years, if you had said in 2027, I would give him a much better chance in 27 and 26.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I sell that I think he would be a projected starter, but I think he would have the potential to be solidly in the 2 deep. I'm with you there. And then from Joe Alt, superfan, ain't no 76, ain't no 6 like 76. Buy, sell, hold. The current and soon-to-be running backs will keep Notre Dame in the Doak Walker conversation yearly, and at least one of those backs will win the Doak Walker.
I think Jeremiah Love was the last top 5 Doak Walker since, was it Kyron? Was Aldrich top 5?
Oh, I'm not sure. Let me look.
I think it was since Kyron. I think Notre Dame consistently has running back production, but to win that Doak Walker award, if I were placing a bet on FanDuel, had to get that in. If I were placing a bet on FanDuel, I probably would not lay money on Aeneas Williams to win the Doak. Be very interested in what those odds were, because it might actually have some pretty good value, but I probably wouldn't make that. So I would sell that. I would sell that with the current running back room this year. Now, if I start thinking about this, might move the needle back to whole. Because are we counting commits in the 27 class as well?
I would. He says current and soon to be running back. So yeah, that includes Lathan Wissington and Isaiah Rodgers.
I do like the 20 class of 26 combination. I like them a lot. But Lathan Wissington, to me, has a shot to be dynamic. Like track background, multi-sport athlete, the explosiveness that you see on tape is some of the similar things that we saw in Jeremiah Love's tape. So you know what? I'll go ahead and hold. I'll hold, because I think later on there could be a chance with the soon to come, but in the current, I don't see it currently as it sits.
Yeah, I buy that they will always be in the conversation, just in the same way that Audric was in the conversation. Kyron was in the conversation. Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price in 2024 were in the conversation. They didn't win it, obviously, because of Ashton Genty, but that's how I view that. One of them will win it. That's what's so tough for me. I buy it as a possibility. But, I mean, think of all of the great running backs at Notre Dame that didn't. And I don't want that to be an inflection of how I feel about how their careers will be in South Bend. If Javian Osborne at any point in time ever puts up what Audric did, or if Jonas Walton is ever what Kyron Williams was, that is a heck of a running back. Absolutely heck of a running back. But I don't know if that's enough to win the Doak Walker. Some of it also depends on what other running backs pop off around the country. So I'm going to hope by it, because I would love for that to be the case. But it's crazy to think that Jeremiah Love is the first ever Doak Walker award in Notre Dame's program's history, given all of the great running backs that have came through. So the odds and history are not on the sides of that happening. But would I be completely shocked if Notre Dame wins multiple Doak Walker awards in between 25 and 29? I wouldn't be beside myself for sure. And then another one from Joe Alt, superfan. By so hold, not a single USC team Freeman has beat would be a top 5 win for Freeman in his tenure at Notre Dame, whereas beating Notre Dame in 2022 is easily a top 3 win for Riley. Well,
I'm trying to remember when they came in with Caleb Williams. That was a pretty big game.
I mean,
he was trying to win back-to-back Heisman.
Yep. USC was ranked 10th in the country, and they were undefeated, and Notre Dame won by 28 points. You could argue that would be in the top 3. Because what are the other games in contention, or in the top 5? Because what would be the other games? Obviously, the Sugar Bowl and the Orange Bowl in 2024. Those would be 2 of them. The Clemson game in 2022 is probably going to be one of them.
And maybe the Indiana game too.
Yep. And then after that, I mean, if it's between like the A&M game in 24 or the USC game in 23, where you beat a rival by 28 points who had a returning Heisman winning quarterback, I'd probably lean towards USC.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you, Joe Alt, that beating Notre Dame in 2022 is easily a top 3 win for Lincoln Riley, because then the question is, okay, so who else? Like, who else would that win be? It's not Oregon. It's not Penn State from 2024. So I definitely get the spirit of where your question is. And then another one is buy, sell, hold. The most absurd thing ever said on Irish Breakdown was on Tuesday, May 12th, during the Linebacker State of the Program show, when Trevor said Joe Alt was decent. Well, okay, a little bit of context here, because I think I remember why I said decent. I think we were talking about like players that like ended up panning out above like what their recruiting level was or something. And Brian made the comment of like, yeah, Joe Alt's one of the guys. You remember Joe Alt? You remember him? And I was like, yeah, he was, decent. So it was said sarcastically, but I understand, Joe Alt, if you didn't catch on to my sarcasm, because sometimes I just like to slip it in there. My apologies. Joe Alt was slightly better than decent. He was all right. So there you go. There's another one for you to bring up on the next buy, sell, hold. But no, Joe Alt was Joe Alt, in all seriousness, was probably the best collegiate left tackle I've seen at Notre Dame. I just hope he stays healthy at the next level, because he could be an absolute dude in the NFL. He just has to stay on the field. Like our guy Christopher Galloway always says, sometimes the best ability is availability. Here's one from ND Fan 811. Buy, sell, hold these non-title winning Notre Dame teams in terms of overall talent. Here's a good one for you, Sean. Buy one, sell one, hold one. Notre Dame in 1993, Notre Dame in 2012, Notre Dame in 2024. You got to buy one, sell one, hold one.
I'm buying 93. That's my favorite team. That's still my favorite team. And I still say they got robbed. Absolutely got robbed. 12 and 24. I'll say 24. I think 24 was a more talented team than 2012. So I'll hold on 24 and I'll sell 2012.
I agree. We have the same order, and it's strictly because I've gone back and rewatched games in 1993, and from everything that you, Brian, and my dad have said about that 93 team, that takes the cake for sure. I got one for you, Sean, in the spirit of this question, more so in my lifetime, but I'll keep 2024. And then the other 2 teams that I'm talking about here are Notre Dame in 2015 and Notre Dame in 2011, as far as talent to not win. Because 2011 was basically the 2012 team with Michael Floyd and Harrison Smith.
Yeah, ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah, but if there are no injuries in 2015, and people are going to say, of course you're going to say that. If there are no injuries, major injuries in 2015, that team is playing Alabama for the national championship. Flat out. They're playing Alabama for the national championship.
Agreed. And I would go as far to say just because of the talent. Even if their D coordinator was the same, if there were no injuries, I think they play Alabama for the championship.
Think about that. Even with an awful defensive coordinator, no injuries, they still, I think they beat Clemson by a touchdown. If they go into that game, dude, they went into that game with a brand new quarterback. Like
at the time, one of the most hostile environments in like that current state of college.
Absolutely. Right. And then they hit Notre Dame in the mouth. And Notre Dame, once they got their bearings, pretty much took over the game.
Strictly because of talent. 100%. They turned the ball over like 4 times and they still lost on a 2-point spread.
Yeah, twice in the red zone. Going in for touchdowns. Like, it's crazy. And still, we're like a 2-point conversion away from going to overtime. That's how talented that team was. That's just how talented they were.
Oh, man. Oh. That is one Notre Dame game that doesn't get talked about enough in terms of like frustration is 2015 Clemson. That game was just so infuriating. Like, you had like the kicker on kickoff coverage, like forcing a fumble on a Notre Dame return guy. You had Chris Brown, who started to really go off in like the late waning moments of that game, but then fumbled in the red zone. You had that. Yeah. All righty. From Burger King's personal chef, buy one, sell one, hold one. So here we go, Sean. You believe it is realistically possible for each of the following: buy one, sell one, hold one. Michigan State goes 8-4. USC goes 7-5. Indiana goes undefeated in the regular season again. So buy is the one that's the most possible. Sell is the one that's least likely.
I'll sell. I'll hold USC going 7-5. I'll sell Michigan State going 8-4. And I'm going to buy Indiana going undefeated. Hey, man, look. It's a 2-game season. It's just a 2-game season for Indiana. That's what it comes down to. And I guess if we're including the Big Ten championship game, I mean, good Lord, they're playing the Howard Bison, for Christ's sake. Good Lord. Oh, man.
Not the Bison.
The Bison. Shout out to all my HBCU folks. Man. Howard definitely signed up for that one for a check. North Texas, Howard, Western Kentucky, Northwestern, Rutgers, Nebraska. I mean, like, that's the first 6 games. They get Ohio State at home. And then it's Michigan, Minnesota, USC, and Washington and Purdue. Yeah. If they beat Ohio State at home, it's a pretty good chance they're going to go undefeated.
I'm going to go. Man. I think I'm going to buy USC go 7-5 because I've watched them do that before. I watched them do that with like a Heisman winning quarterback. Yes, I will buy that one. I will hold, I'm going to hold Indiana goes undefeated, and then I'm going to sell Michigan State goes 8-4. Like, I like Pat Fitzgerald. I like that hire. I think they have a chance to be a bowl eligible team. I don't see them being a bowl eligible team at 8-4. Like, they'd be a bowl eligible team at like 6-6. You know, that's how I see Michigan State. Because of how Indiana's schedule shapes out, like, and this is not me or Sean saying that Indiana will go undefeated. Going undefeated in back-to-back regular seasons is ungodly difficult. Just going undefeated in one regular season is difficult. But, you know, Indiana has games against Ohio State at home. They got to play Michigan in the Big House. They got to play Washington on the road. That's an underrated, sneaky, potentially difficult game, depending on how that shapes out. But, yeah, that's the order that I would go in. And then this one now, Sean, is just a regular buy, sell, hold. This year, a team not in the preseason AP top 25 will be in the playoffs, and it won't be a G5 team.
Not in the preseason. AP top. I'm trying to think. So somebody like, was Vanderbilt ranked to start the season last year? Because I was trying to gauge like a comp.
Let me
Because
go
they
look.
almost snuck into the playoff. They might have been ranked though, like in the 20s.
Yeah, so to start the season last year, it's loading. So give me just a second.
So
in the preseason last year, Vanderbilt was not ranked by the AP.
So that would be a perfect comp. So a team like Vanderbilt most certainly can. I'll sell it. I'll sell it. I think that it'll be close, but I'll sell. I'll sell.
Yeah, I think it'll be close too. I will sell it, and I'll even go as far to say if a team does go from unranked to making the playoffs, I think they'll come from the Big 12. I don't see it being in the SEC. I don't see it being in the Big 10. I mean, ACC maybe, but like you would need Clemson to return back to what it was. You would need the voters to like completely overlook SMU and not rank them at all in the preseason top 25, which I don't see happening. But they did end last year unranked in the AP. So, potentially that. At least I think they did. I don't think SMU finished the season ranked last year. SMU was not ranked to finish last year. So, yeah, it would have to be one of those type of things from the ACC. But I think if it comes from any conference, I think it'll be the Big 12.
Yeah.
And then buy, sell, hold. One of Devin Fitzgerald, Caden Finley, or Elijah Burr scores a receiving touchdown versus Wisconsin or Rice. And one of those also scores a receiving touchdown versus Miami, BYU, or SMU. And they have to do both.
I would buy Fitz. I would definitely buy Fitzgerald out of the three. But I'm going to be honest, man. Starting the season, I just think you're going to see a whole lot of Faison, a whole lot of Graham, and a whole lot of Porter and Gilbert. I think you're going to see a whole lot of – I mean, they might sprinkle in some guys in situations, but when you have top guys, you usually like to feed them the ball. But I can see it happening like – because I can see Notre Dame definitely being out in front of Wisconsin and Rice in the second half and it taking place. And then I can see it as they mature during the season and maybe get more snaps. I can see it happening. I'll buy it. I'll go ahead and buy it. I'm living dangerously today, Trev. I'll buy it.
I love it. Shoot, I'll buy it too. It's a good way to kick off the week. I'll buy it too. I like that. All righty. From Rocket 25, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame's next commitment will be on defense.
Buy.
Love it. If on defense, buy, sell, hold, the most likely is a D lineman. And that includes D tackle, D end, or a nose guard type.
Rocket 25 is really smart. He's trying to figure out who the next commitment is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll leave that up to the message board and when the decision comes.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hold on part 2.
Love it. I love it. All righty. And then buy, sell, hold from Father J-Pop. Leighton Von Brandt going elsewhere opens up some nominal NIL budget possibilities. A few more dollars for for Albert Simeon or someone else at a position Notre Dame wants.
And I've said it earlier, man. I think Notre Dame is in a position, especially when it comes to offensive line play. It's a long way to go in the 27 recruiting class. And, you know, we've seen Notre Dame have the audacity to go after 5-star Miami commits, to go after, highly touted commits at other schools and bring them into the spring for practice in the spring. And, how they got in on Olu late and were able to get him in the class. So I think right now, you kind of feel like, yes, the budget is the budget, but It's always been a possibility that even if he was in the class, Trev, and they missed out on Simeon, if they saw somebody that they liked down the line, they probably still could have gone ahead and flipped somebody or got in on someone late. So yeah, I'll buy this overall. From what was said, I'll buy it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll buy that big picture just with how like the distribution of funds work. You know, like it's just more money that you can allocate elsewhere. So I get you. I'm with you completely. All righty. Here we go from MM Irish. Buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame will sign Albert Simeon. I mean, that one I'm going to hope buy. What the journey is getting to his official visit on June 19th, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the journey for a lot of these kids now. I think the evolution now is when kids are setting official visits, I think they're being nice to coaching staffs. But the truth of the matter is, after spring visits, a lot of these kids really know the program they want to go to. Maybe it's down to like one or the other. But, when you start having conversations with the people around you and you start having conversations with agents and, maybe other recruits that you've connected with on your travels, official visits, I don't know if official visits really move the needle a lot. I think these kids go into official visits knowing where they would like to go. And if it's close, they can be swayed in another direction. But if you're trying to make up ground in official visits, yeah, that's swimming uphill. I mean, up current, shall I say.
No, that's very fair. You've been doing a lot of swimming uphill, Sean?
I don't know. It's hard to swim uphill, man. I don't know where that came from.
We got one from DLuzJ01. Assuming no developmental changes, so players are what they are, as a coach, you'd rather have a team of average athletes with elite football IQs than a team of elite athletes with low football IQs. Oh, this is a good question.
Do I have elite coaches? If I'm an elite coach, which I believe I would be.
Okay.
I mean, talent is talent. I can have smart kids out there. Because I think, I'm going to be honest, and I wish people would stop trying to stigmatize Indiana like this. Indiana has some talent on their football team. Like, Kurt Signetti and his staff did a fabulous job. But their offensive line was pretty talented. I think there are some guys on the interior of that defensive line, when they get done, that are going to be some day two additions to the NFL. I think their wide receiver core had about 4 or 5 guys. They had a first-round guy this year, and he was the third best wide receiver production-wise. So, and then both of their corners are really good. I think Pons is going to be dope in the NFL. And I like the kid that's coming back this year that had the game-winning game-winning interception. I like him a lot. I think he was a 3-star, like out of South Florida. So I think that's kind of like, you look at Indiana, I think Kurt Signetti, his story and the coaching like overshadows the fact that they did a great job. And I mean, the number 1 overall pick was your quarterback. So give me the talent, man. Because you can be as great of a coach as you want to and have smart players, but that was a shot. I wonder if this person that wrote this was thinking about the championship game when they formed this question.
At the college level, assuming that I have great coaches around me, give me the talent.
Yeah.
Because you can't really say the same for the NFL, because even if you're on like the Jets, I mean, Sauce Gardner was on the Jets. Like, you know what I mean? So it's not as easy to just say our dudes are just better than your dudes, as much in the NFL as you can say at college. In college, you could be like the 4th ranked team in the country playing like the 22nd ranked team in the country. And even if you're ranked in the top 25, that doesn't mean that your dudes are just as good or better than, you know what I mean? So give me the talent. Like there are just some times where it's like, that's why we were so frustrated why Jeremiah Love didn't touch the ball more against Miami. Because we could confidently say like that dude in the white jersey wearing number 4 is just better than some of those dudes. But it's not as easy to say that at the next level. So in college, give me the elite athletes with low football IQs. Because I feel like there's some things that I could do schematically to point people in the right direction if they have low football IQ. That's why I've been so frustrated that Cam Williams hasn't seen the field yet.
And when you really think about it, Trev, like low IQ doesn't mean you're incapable of learning. It just means you have to figure out the process by which that individual learns.
Right.
And that's where the coaching comes into play, because that's your job in your position room to figure out. Like no position coach has all of their guys that learn the exact same way or that can be communicated with the exact same way.
Without a doubt.
You're an educator as a coach. That's what you're an educator. It's your job to figure out how to get the overall message across. That's part of the job description. So, yeah, if I'm an elite coach, give me the talent.
Yep. Agreed completely. All righty. From In Lieu of Whiskey, Holtz My Beer, buy, sell, hold. The Shields Family Hall opening this summer and early fall is an addition that has brought Notre Dame to the forefront of college football recruiting in the only controllable variable it was not already elite.
I'm buying it. I talked to Letish Kinsler, Olu's agent, and he flat out listed and talked about what the Shields Family Hall is going to be and how it was a part of him ultimately deciding to commit to Notre Dame. So when a 5-star, is talking about that, and like he's looking at it unfinished, but they can see, what it's going to be. I think it's definitely making an impact. It's definitely making an impact.
Without a doubt.
No, I was just going to say, Trev, it's really sad, man, because like former Notre Dame players, they love their university, man. The brotherhood is like absolutely amazing. And they're not jealous at all, but they just look back almost retrospectively like, yo, we've come a long way. Like they used to kick us out the facility. Like these kids are like watching film late night and the coaches are talking about we had to kick them out. And like when we were playing, they would kick us out at like 9 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that just shows you how far in a decade, going back to one of the original questions, like being a serious contender, that's how far they've come.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely. I mean, something like the Shields Family Hall, that goes against another anti-recruiting tactic against Notre Dame. It's like, yeah, like it has all of its lore and all of its tradition, but it's all old. Like you don't want to go there. It's outdated. It's this, it's that. It's like, no. Like I got to imagine like that's one of the reasons why when kids get on campus for visits, unofficial or official, and they actually see what Notre Dame's program is and the current state of the actual program, I mean, that's got to count for something. You know what I'm saying? So that I'm with you completely. That is a buy for me as well. And then continuing with the Shields Family Hall, this is a buy one, sell one, hold one. So the construction of the Shields Family Hall will yield blank number of additional recruiting wins per year over the next 3 years that Notre Dame would not have won without it. So option 1 is 0. Option 2 is option B is 1. And then option C is 2 or more.
Well, I'm going to sell option A because I definitely think it's going to make an impact. And then I'll hold 1. Because, I mean, it's there. It's like, yo, they walk up on campus and it's like, boom, it's right there. Like whether you're inside on the practice field or outside on the practice field, you cannot ignore the construction and what's being erected. Like It's there. And I'm sure Notre Dame is going to make sure you notice it. Make sure they show you the specs, the video of what it's going to look like by time you get here. This is what you'll be walking into. So yeah, I would buy 2 or more.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you. I would buy 2 or more as well. That impact is going to be absolutely huge. And I'm excited to see what it's going to be. Here we go. Got a buy, sell, hold from Fighting Irish Golfer. Notre Dame will have 2 wide receivers this year will have a minimum of 650 receiving yards by the end of the season, postseason included.
I think they got a chance to get 3.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, depending on how the rotations shake out, Sean, there is a chance that they have 3 receivers all over 650 receiving yards, but not one over 1,000.
Yeah.
There's a chance that happens.
I think you have to figure out the other 2. Jordan Faison is 1. He's getting 650. I mean, that's just what he does. Doesn't matter. That's what he does. That's his production. You look at how he's progressed. 650 is a natural step for him. The buzz will make you feel like Mylan Graham will be next in line. Just by sheer, good grief, just sheer size. When you saw that video they posted of Quincy Porter walking around this spring, it's like, dude, he's a great option. Yeah, I think Micah Gilbert is a great option for 650. So it wouldn't shock me. 2 of the 4, yes, I'll buy that. With the outside chance of maybe 3.
Especially if we're including the postseason.
Yeah.
Like Jordan Faison will just kind of repeat what he did last year. Very confident in saying that. And then to Sean's point, it's just quite, will it be Greathouse? Will it be Porter? Will it be Graham? Could it be multiple of those? I'm with you. Got one in here from Irish English. Buy one, sell one, hold one. 5-man sleds, tackling donuts, or pop-up tackling dummies with the arms.
This is for you. I'm not a football dude, so I would never be a fan of the sled. I'm sorry. I've seen too many. I've seen the sled embarrass too many athletes in videos. I've just seen it, bro. I'm definitely selling the sled.
I mean, if I'm just talking about like what I would get for my football program to like use on a day-to-day basis, I mean, I would start with the pop-up tackling dummies with the arms because you could get multiple uses out of those. I'd probably hold the 5-man sleds and sell the tackling donuts as far as like what I would be using the most on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, that's probably, I guess, of all of the things, if I absolutely needed one, it'd probably be the 5-man sled because that's a piece of equipment that you can use. That's a piece of equipment that you can use that like you can't use like a player or a coach to simulate some of those other things, but you can use like a player, a coach, a GA to simulate a tackling dummy, or like there's things you could do not using tackling donuts.
And it really is synonymous with football fields. Like you can go to any high school over the summer when school is out of session and the 5-man sled is on the field somewhere. It's just there.
Right. So, there's no shed that they're putting it in.
No, they just leave it on the field. Through the winter, through the rain, the snow, it's just there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you completely. Another one in here from Irish English. Buy one, sell one, hold one. We're talking about stadiums now. We got Lambeau Field, MetLife Stadium, and AT&T Stadium.
Once you get over the allure of Lambeau, I'm not an allure guy. I'm an experienced guy, which allure in history is part of. But after that, I want to have a great time. I want the bathrooms to be really accessible. I want really great food. So I've never been to MetLife. So this is why it's going to make it hard. So I'm going to buy AT&T Stadium. I'm going to sell Lambeau. That's right. Go Bears. And I'm going to hold MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, that one's tough because I haven't been to any of them. If I'm thinking of like amenities, I'd probably have to buy AT&T Stadium, right? Like that just feels like it's super fancy on the inside, kind of bougie. I have a love-hate relationship with old fields. Like I love the allure of it. Like I think of like old stadiums around. Like I mean,
Yeah.
I love Notre Dame Stadium. It's my favorite stadium in all of sports. Obviously, there's a clear bias, but
Yeah.
I would also be lying if I didn't love having to go to the bathroom in a trough
It's
or
awful, man.
or sitting on bleachers that give you splinters.
Yeah.
Like I'd also be lying if I said I love that stuff too. Like that's how I feel like Lambeau would be. That's how like I have a buddy who's a diehard Cubs fan. He said like that's kind of how that's how the Cubs stadium is, Wrigley. So that's that's probably how I would go if I was just going on like I don't know what you even want to call it, like the lore or like the
Yeah.
aura of it. I'd probably go buy Lambeau. Hold AT&T, sell MetLife, I guess. But that's probably what I would go.
Absolutely. And this is why you could actually argue for Lambeau. I will say this. If you group Lambeau, the Rose Bowl, and Wrigley Field, venues like that, the way they built those structures really made the viewing of the product like great seats. Like you didn't have to have a front row seat to have a great seats. It's like it was just really great seats everywhere. I think sometimes in certain places they sacrifice that for technology and some other things. Like AT&T has that huge monitor right there in the middle of the field, right? Almost to the point that people don't even look down at the game. Like they look and stare at the monitor. Like you pay money to come stare at a monitor that you could have stayed home and done the same thing for free. It's just a weird experience, right? So from that standpoint, because I think Notre Dame Stadium is one of those stadiums where it's like, yo, it's just a great stadium to view a game.
Not a bad seat in the house.
No, it's just a great stadium to view a game. So if you want to look at it from that standpoint, I could definitely see Lambeau Field. Someone saying Lambeau Field, I'll buy it. But take it from me. I mean, they have the museum attached, and it's, like Soldier Field was awful to me. Flat out awful. Just awful. I can't wait soon enough for the new stadium. It's just an awful experience, man. Traffic, weather, the seats, and they put lipstick on a pig when they updated it and turned into a spaceship. It's just like
oh, lipstick on a pig is crazy. That's funny.
That's it. That's all they did, man.
That's funny. All righty. This one's not really a buy, sell, hold. It's from I Am Tenzin, but it's basically BYU's toughest opponent, not best or the most skilled. So here, I'll try to phrase it in a buy, sell, hold way here for you, Sean. So we'll go not named Notre Dame. BYU's hardest game of the season will be at home against Arizona State on Halloween. So buy, sell, hold, Arizona State being BYU's toughest non-Notre Dame opponent.
I can buy that. I think Arizona State is going to bounce back. I think they had a really tough season with injuries and some other things, but I expect them to fully bounce back this year. I really do. I think they'll be in the mix.
I do too, and I think they're getting rid of a locker room problem in Sam Levitt. Like, I mean, you heard some of the remarks that his teammates said about him, like after he left, didn't even participate in like the end of the year banquet or whatever they had. And I just sometimes there's addition by subtraction, and that's not indicative of how I think he's going to be at LSU. I think he went to the best place for him and is able to learn under Lane Kiffin because he's gotten the most out of every quarterback. Sometimes it's just about fit. Oh, shoot, man, Jackson Dart was a personality. I don't think he would have worked out in the Big 12. But, I mean, he went with Lane Kiffin and he got the most out of him, and now he's starting in the NFL. So,
somebody in the chat said maybe the question is trying to ask whether or not BYU is going to be Notre Dame's toughest opponent.
Oh, okay. Okay. not best or the most skilled, but they're toughest. Okay, I get that. My apologies then. I would also sell that. I know they get Miami at home. I mean, we could talk about, and I've brought this up before, the timing of the game. Like their away games before that are what? Purdue, North Carolina, Wisconsin at Lambeau Field, and then they travel out to Provo. Like that will be, I mean, BYU is far and away their hardest away game all year. And I don't think that that is debatable. But I mean, just their toughest opponent is still just going to be Miami, I think.
Teams like BYU, I worry more about Notre Dame than I do BYU. Notre Dame facing Miami, I worry about Miami and the talent.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
BYU, I don't worry about their talent compared to Notre Dame. I worry about Notre Dame, how they're going to react on the road in that environment, and other things. Will there be injuries? Will a big player on the D line come up injured, or an offensive lineman come up injured the week before, or something? Knock on wood. Yeah, it's like those types of things can raise the anxiety level leading into a game. But just as we sit here today, like I'm not worried about BYU. It's a good opponent. It's a good opponent on the road. Notre Dame is going to have to, strap it up, hunker down. You know what I'm saying? They're going to have to bring it. But if Notre Dame brings it, that's a 10-point game. That's a double-digit game if Notre Dame brings it. So,
yep. Agreed. And then a non-quarterback will win the Heisman this season.
Heck no.
I'm with you. Look,
no.
If we weren't going to see it last year with what Jeremiah Love did, because like with all due respect to Fernando Mendoza, like he didn't, in my opinion, put up Heisman level numbers. I think he had a really good season and was on one of the best teams in college football that season. But if we're talking about who's the best player, it's funny that after the Heisman voting was done, that's when people started talking about how Jeremiah Love was the best player in college football, but not like leading up to it. Different conversation for a different day, perhaps. But that's also what they talked about in the NFL Combine and the entire draft process. Best player in college football. It's like, well, he didn't win the award for the best player in college football, but it is what it is. If it's not going to happen that year, because like I understand a lot of people are talking about Jeremiah Smith, but like I think it would be very hard for a wide receiver to win the Heisman Trophy in a season where his quarterback is also a preseason favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. Barring it being something where like Julian Sain only has 28 passing touchdowns this year and 22 of them go to Jeremiah Smith. Like, unless it's something like that where the ratios are crazy, I don't see Jeremiah Smith winning it. And he's the only non-quarterback candidate that I think would be in that conversation, honestly.
Let me tell you something, man. Quarterbacks are always the wild card to me. Always. Unless their passing game takes a humongous jump forward with Bear Bachmeier, I'm not worried about BYU scoring points. I'm just not. If they come into that matchup having to depend on the run and they really don't threaten you in the passing game, just schematically, what do I fear? Like, okay, at some point, if this Notre Dame team is who we believe they are, and Marcus Freeman is who, the environment is not about to affect Notre Dame. They're not about to walk up into Provo and be shook. Like, could it pump up BYU and allow them to play above their heads and make it a little bit closer? Absolutely. Could the noise lead to some mistakes made and some penalties? Absolutely. But like I said, if Notre Dame plays a B-level game, BYU is not beating them.
Agreed.
That's just a B. They're not beating them. I don't care if it's in Provo, Neutral Field, Notre Dame Stadium. They're not beating them. Miami can walk into Notre Dame Stadium and win. Like, they're just that talented. They can. And that goes back to the question, what do you want? The coaching or the talent? It's like, take the talent. Miami's the more talented team and the bigger threat. And I would actually take, and I know you and Brian may not feel this way, But going into a game, I would actually be more worried about Kevin Jennings than I would Bear Bachmeier.
Oh, I would be.
I would.
Yeah, I would be too. I agree with you completely. And like you said, unless Bear Bachmeier takes a big step forward as a passer, agreed completely. Yeah. Like I think LJ Martin's going to be one. I think when we make our list, LJ Martin's going to be a top 10 running back returning in college football.
Absolutely.
But that's when you get into the matchup conversation. To your point, there's nothing that BYU presents on offense. They're just Notre Dame is a bad matchup for BYU.
I agree.
I'm with you completely. That's where it's like I am concerned about Miami with Cooper Barcotti and Malachi Toney and Vandrevius Jacobs and Mark Fletcher coming back and a more, I don't want to say a better passer, like a more like explosive passer, I guess the best way I could put it with Darian Mensah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm with you completely. You got a little bit of your Shannon Sharp going on there for a second. You're like, I don't care if it's in Provo or neutral side or man, I don't care if it's a Provo, a Volvo, or some cocoa.
All of that.
Irish and 5. Yeah, man. I'm with you completely. All right. From Cheeks.
Wow.
Myself hold. The biggest reason Notre Dame will win the Natty this year. So we got to buy one, sell one, hold one. Will be because of CJ Carr's progression as a quarterback, or be because of the improvement in the offensive trenches, or it will be because of more depth across skilled positions, making it easier for Notre Dame to spread it around.
Biggest reason.
Yeah. I got my order here, Sean. It's actually pretty quick for me. I
almost want to say it's already in order.
Close to. I'm gonna go because of the improvement in the offensive trenches. As a team, I think Notre Dame could have competed for a championship last year.
Yeah.
But when it got to time for some of those matchups, if there was a rematch against Miami, if it was going up against Ohio State or Indiana or any of those teams in the playoffs, I would have been concerned about Notre Dame's tackle scenario. Because they did, Notre Dame's offensive tackles in the two biggest games that they played last year against Miami and Texas A&M, they didn't play great. They performed better against Cassius Howell than they did against Akeem Mesidor and Reuben Bain. But that would have been a concern for me going up against Kenyatta Jackson or Caden Curry, or going up again against, Mikhail Kamara, or going up against some of the kids from Georgia potentially. So I would say improvement in the offensive trenches, because I think the run game is going to look different this year, and they're going to need the offensive line to play a big role in that. The close second for me is CJ's progression as a quarterback. It's because I think if you're going to win a national title, you need your signal caller to be that dude at some point in the season. Now, I don't know when that's going to be. For Ohio State in 2024, it was Will Howard kind of just throughout the playoffs. In 2023, it was J.J. McCarthy against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. He had to be a dude that day because Nick Saban said, you guys aren't going to beat us with rushing for 280 yards. For Indiana last year in the playoffs, even, it was Fernando Mendoza's legs. And so that's where I'm at. And then I sell because of the more depth across skilled positions. That will be a factor. Don't get me wrong. But in comparison of the three, I don't think that that's going to be the biggest. That's where I'm at with this one, Sean.
And see, that is why the offensive trenches, absolutely understand. For me, the offensive trenches is about consistency and proving it against the best teams, right? I think Indiana's offensive line did that. Not in the sense of maybe putting up the same yards per carry that they did against lesser teams, say like in the national championship game, but big moments, they were able to go ahead, get the first downs, establish the run. Without that penalty, they pretty, at the end of the game, coming out of a timeout, they run the clock out. Like their offensive line literally just runs it down Miami's throat. They run the clock out. The penalty puts Miami right back in the game. But this is why I do look, because you mentioned Fernando Mendoza. I don't think it's about stats. I won't equate it to stats for CJ Carr. It's moments. It's moments. The difference for Indiana with Mendoza was the plays he made in the big moments, whether it was on the road against Penn State, fourth quarter of the Big Ten championship game, fourth quarter against Miami, it's those moments. CJ Carr has to have those moments. There's going to be 3 or 4 opportunities where he has to come through. He has to come through. Man, Miami was blistering Fernando Mendoza early in that game. Just wrecking him. I'm hitting them all over the place, letting them know this is not the same. This is not the Big Ten, bro. This is not Rutgers. Like, you're going to get hit a lot more than you got hit against Alabama and everybody else you face. CJ is going to have that type. He's going to have to be strong, a leader, tough. Loved him being down in Florida with his guys this week, showing that off-season leadership. I do not buy into Geno saying he doesn't have to be that much better. He does. He does. In moments, he definitely has to be much better than he was last year. I'm not talking about stats. I'm not talking about all of that. I'm talking about moments. Because when you look at Fernando Mendoza's stats weren't really that much further ahead of CJ Carr. However, his moments were absolutely what made the difference, right? And you're talking about, they ran the ball 60-something% of the time as an offense. So his efficiency of getting it done when they needed it, when they had to have it, and in limited passing attempts. If I'm not mistaken, I think his passing attempts and CJ's really weren't that far apart. I might be wrong, but I remember looking at those and saying, man, I thought looking at Fernando, especially as a Heisman winner, most Heisman winners throw for 4,000 yards. But this, what did Mendoza throw for?
CJ Carr last year.
Like, dude, he doesn't have. Why are you?
Yeah, CJ Carr last year threw the ball 293 times. Fernando Mendoza last year threw
it 80 more times.
Yeah.
80 more times.
Yep. In
3,500 yards, bro. 3,500 yards.
Yep.
CJ. So basically, if CJ can throw it for like 32 to 3,500 more touchdowns, which means more big plays, more efficiency. Like I said, I don't want to quantify if 800 more yards and however many more touchdowns. He had 24 touchdowns and Fernando had 41.
41. Yeah.
You know, like, okay, 14 more touchdowns, 800 more yards.
Well,
yeah.
And then you got to get into
the moments.
Absolutely. And then stat-wise, you got to get into, like, CJ Carr wasn't putting up any yards against Syracuse. You know what I mean? Like, it was 21-0 before he stepped foot on the field. I get you completely. Moments have to be better. I'm with you. So are you buying CJ's progression, holding offensive trenches, and then selling the more depth at skill positions?
Actually, man, I can see both of those being in the top spot, man. Right? Because how do I say this? I think it's unfair to CJ to just give him an automatic pass. Like, oh, yeah, he's going to be fine. Like, dude, he has to experience. He hasn't shown a moment. Like, you can say, oh, well, Miami, he came back. They lost the game.
Yeah.
They lost the game. Not his fault. I'm not about to break up the pile whose fault it was. He lost the game. You know? I mean, he had a key interception in the second half against Texas A&M. Not blaming him for the game, but I mean, that's, and he didn't play well against USC at home. I mean, those are things to point out. It's like, we can't have that. We need to flip that in those games, in those moments. And quite possibly, you might have to be the difference in a game this year. You weren't asked to be the difference in a game last year. You might have to be the difference in a game. You might have to be the difference in Provo in the fourth quarter down 3. Go, CJ, go lead us down the field. Defense didn't have the day we thought they were going to have. Go get it, big guy. Go get it. He has to be able to do that. To me, that's a huge step.
Agreed.
That's a huge step to make as a quarterback.
Yeah.
You know,
Without a doubt. In the big moments, I agree with you 100% because Notre Dame did, in my opinion, Notre Dame did ask him to do that last year, but it wasn't in those big moments like what you were talking about because you had 4 and 24 in the backfield. You know, it's like against NC State at home, CJ kind of had to be the offense that day because NC State was selling out to stop the run. I get that. But
and
in those
understandable, which
yes.
goes to your progression to offensive line coming to the forefront now.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, you're going to have teams now that might back off, and that gives the offensive line an opportunity to be even more dominant because teams might not be willing to sell out, or they might not even respect the run game to the point early on to say, okay, we'll make them show us
right
that the run game is just as good. We'll start out playing a little more base and go from there, or, you know, double the outside guys and do some other things. It's going to be very interesting to watch, though. But you can't go wrong with either one buying it.
Agreed.
And whichever one you buy, the other one is a hold, and the last one is definitely a sale.
It's 1A, 1B for sure. Yeah. Because I would argue Notre Dame can't win a natty if both of those things don't happen. You need them both.
Yeah.
It's just the only reason why you got to buy one and sell the other one is that's the theme of today's show. So
yeah,
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Now I do know that I think our guy Salty put one more in here.
He said he was going to do that. He said he was going to do it.
He said, buy, sell, hold. Brian will get knocked off the show. Trevor will keep it rolling, and Sean will drop in to finish it off strong. Buy.
Buy it. Buy it. And I got up off the couch taking meds because I sound crazy.
I was about to say, you sound a little stuffy, man. I appreciate you hopping on here with me. We do have 3 super chats before we get out of here. For Sine, Cosine, Tangent, appreciate the super chat. I think this is for, Wade Garrett's message board money, so we'll be getting with Brian to talk about that. I think Brian put his email in the chat before he had to hop off of here.
Okay.
Another buy, sell, hold from our guy, UT Irish, guy Drew Rainey, appreciate you. Buy, sell, or hold, and he went on to say this is about the USC rivalry. So buy, sell, hold. Are you buying that this rivalry is too big to die, selling the idea that modern scheduling and college football politics have permanently damaged it, or holding it until we see an actual long-term agreement?
I think the pause is a direct result of certain participants that are contributing to the discussions and the negotiations, particularly on the USC side. So, you know, as those people fade out or go elsewhere, or I think the Notre Dame's, look, mostly everybody on both sides, media, former players, current players, coaches would probably tell you we want to play. We want to play. We need to play. So yes, I buy that it is too big to die. I think it's that important to both fan bases. I think it's that important to the alumni and the former players, and eventually they'll come to an agreement. I look back on it now, and I actually tip my cap to Marcus Freeman and the poise he showed in the immediate aftermath. I thought he was very thoughtful in his responses, very measured, and very much encouraging that, you know, we're going to play. We don't know when, but we're going to play. So, you know, I'll lean on him. He's been very honest, and I'm going to take Marcus Freeman at his word that they'll be playing at some point.
Agreed. I have made my opinions on the Notre Dame USC rivalry very widely known. And so, Drew, I appreciate your super chat. And my apologies for not getting to it until just now. This has been a very interesting day, to say the least. But no, I'm with you. I am not buying that, or I do buy that this rivalry is too big to die. I had an article come out over the weekend just talking about how, like, it's neither side needs neither side. It's just college football needs this rivalry.
Yeah.
And I don't like that it's Notre Dame that's always continuously on the short end of the stick of, oh, we can do away with that. But what happens if that happens to the game? What happens if that happens to the Iron Bowl? Or, you know what I mean? I view the Notre Dame USC rivalry amongst those. And no, so I definitely buy that it's the rivalry's too big to die. But you need two to tango. And when one side isn't willing to show up to the dance, it kind of writes the obituary itself, unfortunately. And then last super chat from our guy, Raymond Hartman. Appreciate you, man. He said, just wanted to show my appreciation for your addition to the Irish Breakdown family. You have brought so much. I'm really glad Brian took the chance on you, sir. Raymond, I appreciate you, man. I am also very, very glad that Brian took the chance on me as well. Today was a very fun show, guys. I appreciate your patience. The format of the show looked completely different. We've had weather issues, and now I'm confident in saying that I don't know if I don't think, hopefully, we will be having these weather problems throughout the rest of the week. The guys are going live on IB Nation Sports Beat at 5:05 p.m. So here in just a little bit under an hour, they're going to continue the conversation around CJ Carr, which I think will be very interesting. So be sure to tune into that. On your way out of this show, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. Be sure to share this podcast with your friends, family, anybody that you know loves Notre Dame and college football as much as you do. But as always, the best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message boards at boards@irishbreakdown.com. Brian and I will be back tomorrow. I'm hoping that his power is back on soon. I'll probably be shooting him a call once the show is over, but Brian and I will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Appreciate everybody's patience today, and we will see you back here very soon on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.